Sports Station.
Mike, at least one team has reached out to inquire about your availability, understanding that you have no trade clause in your contract. What's your message to any team that may reach out to the Steelers to gauge interest or availability in your services?
I have no message. Save your time.
This is Dirt and Sprague.
It's a half-second difference. Shot clock to game clock. Murray, little bump. Murray, will he make more magic? Oh, yes, he will! Jamal Murray is in the zone!
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brandon Sprague.
17 in the first quarter. 6 of 6, 4 of 4 from three-point range. Sharp falls to the floor. Sharp of the Blazers swings it, and Henderson finds it in the corner, and he continues to stroke.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. Good morning. Happy hump day, everybody.
What is happening?
I'm excited to see you this morning. I was a little worried.
It's good to be here.
I didn't know if you had lost your mind like most of the youngs in this country who are actively freaking out about TikTok going away.
So we're actually losing TikTok, huh?
January 19th.
I watch TikTok the way other olds watch TikTok, and that's on Instagram.
Yeah, the
That's
clip
how I,
of the TikTok
the clip
put on the
of
Instagram.
the TikTok that is put on Instagram is the only way that I have ever experienced TikTok. Never downloaded the app, never created an account. I've never been on TikTok before.
That's a funny poll question. Do you watch TikTok on TikTok or on Instagram?
Because that's the way I think the vast majority of people over the age of 30 probably do, although not all, but I would imagine a good chunk of them. So that's actually going down. We're losing access to it because I saw a news story that now everybody's rushing to go download some other Chinese short video app.
Yeah, Red Note.
Red Note, and then we're just giving more info. Let's give our stuff to China. China's taking over again.
Look, China already has everything anyway.
China's dominating.
But there is reports that the young people are in protest going to a app similar called Red Note. And basically what they're discovering is that there's Chinese people on there spreading propaganda. Like, Chinese people seem like actually pretty cool.
I mean, it seems like a nice little country right there. They got good things going on over there, man.
I'm not surprised TikTok is going away. I know they were trying to get it sold to somebody in America, but, should they be the only social media platform to disappear?
Probably not. If you're old enough, too, you remember and you live through the life, wonderful experience, and then death of Vines.
Vines, I remember Vines. Vines was fun.
Vines was the original. I feel like the original TikTok.
It was
short videos. Now, I think you could do a lot more. People do weird TikToks where they're
goes longer on TikTok.
Longer, and you can put yourself in it. And, there's all these different tools and mechanisms that you could use to make your videos cooler. Yeah. I will never forget the Vine that existed that the guy made. I think it was a kid, the courtside Damian Lillard Vine. When he hit the game-winning shot against Houston, was that might be one of the most watched videos of my entire life.
I think it actually ended up becoming one of the top 15 most viewed Vines.
I mean, it was perfect
because you could hear it clap.
He clapped
so close,
and he's 10 feet away from it, and then the arena goes crazy. And if I remember correctly, Vines could legitimately be 15 seconds, and that was it.
Might be shorter.
Might even have been shorter. So it was just a small little, and then it would just when you would watch one, it would play on loop over and over and over and over again, and just seeing him clap, hit the game winner, everybody goes crazy, and then it starts over again. Every time you would open that Vine up, you would watch it probably 25 times. Because that would only take you a minute or two, and then you'd be like, God, that's such a cool video.
Yeah, if you could eliminate one social media platform after TikTok, which one would it be?
Good question. If we could shut one down, I'm the preezy of the steezy.
You probably know this better than anybody in my life, including my wife. I am Mr. All right, I'm gonna get on this. I'm gonna change, and I'm gonna get on this social media thing. And then about 4 months later, I delete, and then I get back on, and then I get back off.
Yeah.
I did this with Facebook.
You did. Are you back on Facebook now?
I was.
We getting kid pictures and happy birthdays.
I discovered that I wasn't posting.
You selling chairs on there, posting a picture of a chair. Who wants this for $15?
And then the timeline wasn't people I was following. It was
they went that route too.
And then it was mixed in with, hey, here's people you went to high school with. They're dead.
Yeah. Thank you.
I played baseball with that guy. He's dead.
I'm only 37 years old.
Well, I'm 38 now.
38,
but it was a little, it was kind of annoying. So I just deleted my Facebook
This is a
account.
little depressing. So now you were back on, and then we snip, snap, now we're back off.
And I'm well aware of the hypocrisy here. I deleted the Facebook. I still have an Instagram.
Yeah, look, I get that. It's hard to pick which one because they're all absolute cesspools. What I will say is I think it's all about how you use them. I think Facebook would probably still be my number one candidate to eliminate.
Really?
I got off of Facebook. I don't know if my account ever is still, like, I deleted everything, so maybe people can still go find my account on Facebook.
Yeah, there is a delete and a deactivate, and I thought I deleted the first time.
Didn't do it.
And then like a year later, I hadn't been on. My father-in-law calls me. He's very respectful and goes, "You need to say thank you." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Thank you for what?
Because everybody on your Facebook page is wishing you happy birthday.
They're all saying happy
How do they know it's my birthday? I'm not even on Facebook. I was. It
You're
was
still
popping
there.
back up. So I deleted. You got to wait 30 days, and then it gets deleted.
Dare I say the only positive thing that Facebook has ever done to mankind is letting people know when your birthday is and you know when other people's birthday is. That's it. That was the only positive thing that ever came from Facebook. I got off of Facebook probably 5 years ago and have never once looked back. Never once wanted to dabble in again.
You haven't missed anything.
We get like the corporate overlords will tell you every now and then Facebook is still important. We get that. It's like I'm not doing that. I'm not going that route. I don't need to do it. The second you get rid of, and Twitter was this way for a little bit, but now I feel like I've curated the way to use it perfectly for me. When you get rid of I just want to see the things that I'm following, that's when you start to lose me. And so as time has gone on, I use Instagram less and less because then it's just an algorithm.
Yeah.
And when I'm scrolling on Instagram, you scroll for like a minute or two, and I realize there's not a single person on here that I'm following.
Yeah, half of them aren't even people you follow.
It's just an ad. It's a random funny video. They know I'm into golf stuff, so here's a golf pro. Like, it's just like, here's a cooking video, maybe one hot chick. I don't know how that got on there. Like, that's my Instagram algorithm. And I'm scrolling, and I'm like, what? This is not, what's Billy Bob from I want to see his pictures, man. That's the guy I follow on Instagram. So Twitter went this way when they did the For You tab.
Oh, it's terrible.
And so it just became, and sometimes you log on and you're like, wait a minute, why am I scrolling through all of this garbage? This is not the feed that I want to be on. And so you just got to make sure you curate it because you can still flip on back over, go to your following tab, and then you get your timeline of things that you're following. You block everything else out, and it's a good news source.
I still miss MySpace.
I miss MySpace as well. Top 8 friends.
Top 8 friends.
Top 8 friends is a big deal,
song
man.
playing you got a profile song.
Never know what it's going to be. What mood am I in this month? I'm going to change my song. Who's my number one? If you had a girlfriend, had to be number one.
If you could find my MySpace page, I don't know if there is enough cringe involved with me seeing that right at this moment because I want to say the last time my Facebook page existed, it was a solo photo of me in college.
Just you.
I hadn't
Selfie?
It was not a selfie, but it was me like leaning against a wall, looking away, but knowing I was getting a photo taken.
Yeah.
I hadn't gotten into Oregon State yet. I had to go to a community college for one term, so I was in Corvallis, but I didn't have a .edu, so I couldn't get on Facebook.
Yeah, you used to have a university website or an email to do it.
And half my top 8 were 4 girls I was like simultaneously hoping would be a girlfriend while a sad R&B song is playing.
God, that sounds like 2008, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it really was.
God,
it really was. Yeah.
I can smell 2008 in that statement that you just gave right there.
Yeah.
Oh, the glory of like upping people's. It reminds me of the Seinfeld episode where it was almost foreshadowing of MySpace, where he's dating the gal and they have the speed dial and, where's Jerry on the speed dial?
Yes.
Where do you show it? Why are you number one? I'm going to
Yes.
put you on why is he on your speed dial? That was the MySpace top 8. And whenever you were interested in a girl, you would go look at their MySpace page to see, what am I, number 3 this week? Where am I on right now?
Yeah, if you weren't
Did she
on
bump me?
it,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
not in the top 8.
Right,
She's got
right.
2 other dudes in the top 8.
Who is this guy?
I got no chance with this gal. What am I doing, man? Oh, I'm number 2? All right, I might have an opportunity here.
I had somebody I went to high school with, and then she moved away, and I was in Corvallis, and I didn't know anybody because I just moved there, and we were like texting, and in my mind, I'm like, this is gonna figure it out.
I got this on lock.
Right. And I was legitimately devastated for like 2 days because there was a random guy that popped into the top 8.
Uh-oh, came out of nowhere.
I wasn't on it.
Never saw him coming.
And I like 2 days of my actual life where I'm like, oh man, my life's hard.
Why am I not top 4?
Oh, it's so
This
embarrassing.
is bogus, man. This is absolute bogus.
It's also a nice kind of refresher now, being much older, of I don't know if I would have made it through most of my youth if any of these existed in middle school or high school.
Probably not.
Not a chance in hell.
Not a chance in hell, because it makes you very self-conscious. You're always worried about your outward appearance on social media.
The party you miss or the hang you miss.
Why wasn't I there? Why wasn't I invited? Why were they hanging out without me? My other favorite modern social media thing that you get, and I think we all have people like this in our lives, of you get posts of things when you know, like, the real backstory, if you will, of like what their life is like, and then you see what that family posts on social media, and you get a lot of that of like, I know that ain't the truth behind the scenes. So what were you doing that for? You just trying to show the world that everything's fine, we're doing great, we all love each other, and it's like, I don't understand the desire to want to do that when that's clearly not the case behind the scenes.
But the weird one is that when they post it like that, and they don't really have a following.
No, it's just
so. It is the people that know them,
right?
And it's such an odd, like,
you're not fooling anybody. You're not a celebrity with 5 million viewers, 5 million followers, just lying about what your life is like.
Yeah, so I always wonder the psychology of like, I know how this is. This is not how this is. This is
real.
This feels staged. I think you paid everybody to be in this photo. It's kind of how
slipping everybody 20. Smile for the camera. We're taking pictures right now. We're a happy family.
We are a happy family.
Everything is great. No, you're not. No,
you're not.
No, you're not. Not the case behind the scenes.
So what's going to be the new TikTok, Vine?
I'm gonna send an email to the Chinese embassy with my social security number. Just get out in front of it. Here you go, China. Here's my information, man. You guys go ahead and have this bad boy.
And then you're gonna get a note back that says, "We already have it. Thanks. We don't need it."
Remember when we all did that one app that you could take your picture and it made you old? Remember that one?
That was a mistake.
I think that was was that Russia or was that China?
I think it was China.
That was China too. And then we quickly realized, like, wait a minute,
they were taking our facial recognition.
That whole thing of taking our picture. They now have all of our photos. So, and by the way, you have to have access to your photo library. So here's pictures of everybody else in my family.
Here's the most messed up part of that. When that I think that was going for like, I don't know, felt like 2 weeks and it died. I not only did my own photo, I took photos of 9 friends and put their photo on that app so I could get them as old people. And hey, look at this.
Look at this. I gotcha.
And then it was like China steals facial recognition. I'm like, damn, I not only gave them mine, I gave them like 10 friends.
Here's an apology text 2 weeks later. That one's on me. Hand
one
up.
One of them in a Chinese prison somewhere.
That is on me. I did not mean to give your information to a foreign government. I apologize.
Let's just get rid of it all. Go back to actually person-to-person, in-face, over a cup of coffee or a cocktail interaction.
It is my hottest take that nobody likes, and I totally get why. I see the benefit in many ways. The hottest take I could possibly give you in society. We should not have cell phones. Go back to landlines.
Yeah, you got to actually mean it if you want to talk to somebody.
Writing letters and learning direction. There's never been a better time.
I am completely useless when it comes to figuring out how to get places.
I used to be
like
stellar.
I got nothing.
I used to be amazing.
I am so reliant upon it. I've done it my entire life. And then when you do it, I don't follow or pay attention to where I'm going because it's just telling me turn right, turn left. So I'm not thinking like, oh, okay, next time I go here, I turn right here. Then I turn left. I'm just following the computer.
I will dial up the map, obviously, at some point to look and see if I need to find it, but I will then try to scope out and say, okay, it's in this part of town. I'm going over this bridge or I'm taking this freeway. Yeah. I very much still try to pay attention to.
I still pay attention to landmarks when I go places so I can remember how to get. I still like
which exit off a freeway, all that sort of stuff.
I'm just listening to the computer tell me where to turn.
Yeah.
I feel like
daydreaming. Left here. Okay, all right, I'll go left.
See,
here.
I would actually argue that actually creates more anxiety. My wife had this. She drove on Sunday to a family event for me, and she doesn't like driving at all. But her phone on her car, her phone has Apple CarPlay, but it has to be plugged in.
Yeah, my wife's the same.
And so I knew how to get where we were going and the way it made us go. And she doesn't trust that I'm going to help her in a pinch, which is like ridiculous.
Right.
And so she just drove for 40 minutes stressed and having anxiety because the minute that phone bumps, that cord tweaks,
it unplugs, and now the
screen
screen's
goes
gone.
off, and now she doesn't know where. And I'm just like, it's okay, I'll help you.
The only thing that it's helpful is if there is an accident or something I know about traffic if I need to go around.
See, that's why you tune in to Dirt and Sprague in the morning to hear our traffic updates. We'll tell you. We got a guy that comes on every morning, tells you where the traffic spots are.
That's the only reason to listen.
That's it. That's all we got. It's coming up in a bit. Don't worry. Hold on a little bit longer. You'll get your traffic report.
Well, we got to get going. We got a lot to get to today. Josh Pate's going to join us. Pate State University at 7:40 today.
Yes.
Talk some college football. He had a thing yesterday on his show where he basically is taking Ohio State to blow Notre Dame out and then said, never get a score prediction. You look like a fool. And I'm like, but you just said they're going to win comfortably. What's the difference?
Yeah, what's a blowout in his mind?
I think he said 23-13.
23-13
is where I think that was his score prediction.
I wouldn't view 23-13 as a blowout.
I think it's going to be a dominant 23-13.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame would have
Notre
to score
Dame
late
gets one late, so it's like 23-6. They give them two field goals, and then they get a late touchdown.
It's got to be like 17-0 at the half, too, because if that's like a 14-6 game at the half, like, it's keeping you around a little bit.
But I think that's what he was hinting at is like a comfortable, dominant 23-13. If you think that's what's my 45-7? What's the difference? 45-17, right. 23-13, where they barely got
38-21. What are we doing here?
Yeah, blowout's a blowout.
35-10. Pick your poison.
So we'll talk with him at 7:40 today. It is a NFL Zig or Zag Wednesday. We'll get to that 6:45. Let's start with a little bit of the local flavor. We'll start there. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
You said yesterday that when the NFL season's done, instead of NFL Factoid Tuesday, maybe doing an NBA Factoid Tuesday?
Yeah, or just your Dos Minutos. You're my news source on the NBA. You got to fill me in on what's going on out there in the association.
I'll give you one before we start locally. How about this? Last night with that Hawks game, did you know the Hawks played?
I did know that they played, and I do know that they beat Phoenix. And I also saw that there was a pretty funny bet between Durant and Booker, and I don't know if that was, I think it's real. Did you see that on the NFL game this weekend?
No.
Okay, let me see if I can find that, because the punishments were pretty funny.
Well, Durant's a commies
He's a big
fan.
commies guy.
Is Booker a Lions fan?
I think so.
Booker's
Let me
from
go find that. Let me go see if I can find that.
Booker is from Michigan?
I have no clue. I don't know. So here's what it is. It says, if the Lions win, Kevin Durant must thank Draymond Green for his 2 championship rings. And if the Commanders win, Devin Booker must write a public Father's Day card to Luka Doncic.
That's a great one.
Isn't that? I saw it. I was like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Which one do you want more?
Probably the KD thanking Draymond Green for the 2 rings.
I mean,
because he doesn't get rings if he doesn't go to Golden State. Golden State might have won rings without him because they won one before and they won one afterwards.
that is the funniest thing. Also, that's funny, but also true. Like, without Draymond recruiting you and you choosing the dumbest thing ever.
Yes, you maybe don't have a ring right now.
I don't think they do.
And what's the narrative about Kevin Durant if he doesn't have a championship at this point in his career?
Yeah, that's interesting. Writing a Father's Day card to somebody who might be the same age or younger than him.
Does Luka own Booker? I don't understand the backstory there.
Do you remember Game 7?
Not really, no, particularly.
The 43-point loss at home?
Oh, touche. Yeah, Chris Paul. Yeah. Now I remember that.
Yeah.
I forgot that was to Dallas.
Luka owns the Suns, yeah.
Okay, let's see what the age difference is between the two of them.
I don't know who's older there.
So Luka.
They've got to be close.
Luka is 25 years old. About to turn 26. Turns 26 in February.
And Booker is?
And Devin Booker is 28. He's 3 years. Just turned 28 2 months ago.
That's like your mom dating somebody younger and you have to call him stepdad.
You're not my dad. Hey, buddy.
Trae Young last night went absolutely insane. He scored 43 points. With that 43-point performance, he now has the 8th most 40-plus point games for guards in NBA history.
Come again?
Yeah. Already.
What?
Trae Young with 43 points has the 8th most 40-plus point games for all guards.
All guards.
In NBA history.
In the history of the National Basketball Association. Yes. He's 26 years old.
It's insane.
He's been in the league, what is this, his 7th year in the league?
About,
4,
I think
5,
so.
6, 7, 8th year in the league. That is a wild stat.
I thought so, too.
That's one of those where you see some of the passing numbers from modern quarterbacks where you're like, they weren't that good, but he threw 100 more touchdowns than this legendary quarterback, and you're like, that's right, game's a little bit different now.
We're going to get to a quarterback context matters conversation at 7 today, because there's some divisional round stuff that I'm pretty excited for, and Dirt and I had a little bit of an off-air kind of segment after the show, and so we're going to get to this at 7, just to give you a sneak peek. I went and looked at the numbers for John Elway. John Elway, in his first year, came in about the midway point. He played 10 games. Swag, he went to the playoffs. Care to guess his record as a starting quarterback that season? In the year they went to the playoffs.
1983, first year in Denver.
10 games.
10 games.
6-4?
4-6.
Oh.
Care to guess John Elway's completion percentage? Remember, this is a playoff team in 1983.
Oh, it's probably maybe 50%.
It's 47.
Yeah, 47.5.
His touchdowns to interception ratio
was underwater.
7-14.
Yes.
Touchdowns to interceptions. So I just want you guys to hold this. Much different game, Sprague. Okay, but context matters. Hold that for 7.
Just looking at the first 7 years of John Elway's career is a really funny thought experiment. Not even just his rookie year. Go through the start of that guy's career.
It's a little mind-blowing.
And the numbers that he put up, and then think about the narratives about him. Obviously, he's one of the all-time great talents. Yeah. Nobody doubts that. But go look at the numbers. They're pretty funny.
But guys are bums if they're not completing 65+% completion percentage. But last night, Hawk stat, there you go. Last night, oof. A double win. The Blazers lost, and Scoot had a career-high 39 points.
How about Scoot? Just can't miss all of a sudden? Where the hell did that come from? Just lighting it up from 3?
Riding a heater.
Look, it was a positive and negative night because I don't know. Have we gotten a response on Klingon yet? Who got hurt twice in the game?
Ankle injury.
Anything.
Okay, so we don't know the
It
severity.
was an ankle,
though?
not a knee.
That's good.
There's been no update this morning. Chance, all he said in postgame, because I watched it, because I was up way too late yesterday, he said ankle injury. No further information as of right now.
Because that's good. When he went down, it looked like he fell on the same knee that he had previously hurt and is now wearing a brace the size of an offensive lineman on. And I thought, well, this is just lovely that our rookie 7-footer fell on that knee again. So ankle injury probably a little encouraging there. Outside of that injury news, you couldn't have asked for a better night. It's a loss to a really bad team in the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn is terrible.
Dude, Brooklyn was coming in.
They're terrible.
I think they had lost 15 of 20.
I forgot Ben Simmons was still in the NBA, to be honest with you. And I'm like, what?
5 in a row, like 8 of 9.
And you ended up losing by 18. So, just well done. So, yeah, great loss because that's one of those that you could probably chalk up as a win if you're a Blazer fan. Thanks for Anthony Simons. So, no showing.
Broke the tiebreaker.
Led to the loss. I greatly appreciate that. And that tiebreaker might be very important down the road. Like, you're never going to overreact too much to one game, but we have shared our thoughts a million times on Scoot and where he is at. I actually dove into some of the numbers yesterday because he was off to this hot start last night. And I'm like, where are his numbers at on the season? And it was a little jarring to look compared to his rookie year. Now, I know some of that was inflated by the last, 30 or so games where we sat everybody and we were openly tanking and he got to play 35 minutes a night. And I'm sure that point in the season will come eventually. I mean, his numbers from year 1 to year 2 are down literally across the board. Points, rebounds, assists, minutes, field goal percentage, 3-point percent, like everything is down across the board.
He's playing less minutes.
He is playing fewer minutes this year than he played as a rookie. Now, again, I think that was largely because of the end of the year. And it's not big. He was averaging almost 29 minutes a game as a rookie. He's down to 26 minutes this year.
He played more than Ant last night. How about that?
Wonderful development, Blazers. Love to see guys getting better. But, hey, you get a random night like this, it doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things because he's shooting horribly from 3, although that did up his percentage on the season from 28% to 34%. In one game, he went up 6% on the season.
What's the league average? I should look up the league average for that. That would be hilarious if he went from sub 30 and in one game got to like the league average. So where you could point to him like, well, I mean, he's shooting league average from 3. What do you want from him?
League average from 3-point percentage, 24-25. 35%, just shy of 36%.
He's like right at league average now because of one game.
One game.
I love stats.
He made like 17 of them last night, it felt like.
I want to carry over 2 things, okay? 2 things. I know you might be hearing that and going, really? Carry over that, huh? There are 2 things that I want to talk about on the other side, and then we'll get to NFL Zig-or-Zag, get some NFL stuff. We got some college football news. We got a local Washington story that's very interesting. We got some coaching news. College football is a-buzzing right now. The title game's about a week. We got Pate at 7:40. So a little bit more local stuff next on The Fan.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, despite a career-high 39 points from Scoot Henderson, including 8 threes, Blazers couldn't contain the Brooklyn Nets, who ended a 5-game losing streak with a 132-114 win in Portland. A bigger concern to the Blazers, rookie center Donovan Klingon left the floor with a right ankle issue late in the fourth quarter. Blazers will host the Clippers Thursday night with the unexpected resignation of defensive coordinator Keith Hayward over the weekend. Oregon State head football coach Trent Bray announcing Tuesday he will assume the DC duties for the Beavers in 2025. To the NFL, where the Lions are expected to have running back David Montgomery back at practice with the expectation he'll be able to play this Saturday night against the Commanders. He's missed the last 3 Lions games with a sprained MCL. Rams head coach Sean McVay telling the LA media he expects tight end Tyler Higbee to play Sunday against the Eagles. He left their wild card game in the second quarter with a chest contusion. College hoops tonight on 910 ESPN. Portland, number 9 Kansas, visiting second-ranked Iowa State. 4 o'clock tip. Pregame coverage starts at 3:45. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by some
Mustang Sally.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
I didn't get to do it yesterday at basketball practice, kind of late. You guys watch any of the second Tiger Golf League?
I didn't. I actually forgot it was going on.
El Tigre played.
I know. That was the one that I actually, the only one I wanted to watch. He walked out to Aya the Tiger. His team got killed. Kevin Kisner can't golf anymore.
That sticks so hard.
I saw those highlights on social media. That was it.
I don't know how that is landing. Is it landing?
The numbers were actually pretty solid for the
numbers
first week.
are good, but
Yeah, okay.
I guess both the matches have been blowouts, so
Yes.
there hasn't been any drama.
You got to have it come down to the wire. I'm sure the number last night will be. It's Tiger Woods.
It's
when
Tiger.
Tiger Woods is involved, it's good. They got over 1 million viewers, I think, average for the first week, which for a Tuesday night simulator golf league,
They got 1 million
average over 1 million.
That's
It
pretty
peaked
good.
at like 1.8, I think, at one point at the start of it. So the numbers were good. I think it's one of those things that's going to fade. It's going to fade as time goes on. First week, you check it out. Second week, you get Tiger. I would imagine there's going to be a bit of a drop off in week 3.
So it's like the XFL. It's like good numbers first week or two, and then they got 400, and now they got
we're
300.
at the point where we're getting actual golf tournaments going on. Our buddy Pat McCabe was on the Golf Channel yesterday because
Was he
he's getting ready.
really?
His tournament's coming up. Here we
Yeah,
go.
Shout out Pat
unfortunately,
McCabe.
they've had they only have one of the top 10 players in the world.
Is
because
Xander pulled out?
Schauffele pulled out with an injury, and we already knew.
I think you confused. I think you combined
think you did.
golfers there. Schaeffler.
I think he did.
Schauffele pulled out,
Yeah. There you go.
and then
Scotty's on your brain.
Scotty
Scotty.
is still recovering from what? Did we ever find out what he actually did at Christmas?
Probably punched a cop. I don't know.
Probably shouldn't say that out loud.
I'm kidding, Scotty. We know you're a wonderful man.
Although, to be fair, there are other golfers that when injuries happen, like DJ gets hurt, where do we go?
Exactly.
Scotty gets hurt. No big deal, regular guy.
I mean, I break glasses in my hands and need surgery all the time. That's a very normal thing.
I was cooking. I've cooked 1 million times.
Never
Never had
once.
that happen.
Never once.
No big deal. Nothing to see here.
So yeah, Wyndham Clark, former Duck, the highest ranked golfer in the field this week.
I'm glad to hear Pat McCabe was on the Golf Channel. For those that don't know, he's a very local guy. He helped run the Winco Foods Portland Open years ago when we had the tournament, and now he's off to greener pastures. The most awkward hello I've ever had with a human being.
Yeah, you had a pretty awkward hello with him.
It's not close.
Number one all time.
There's not even a second one.
Yeah.
And I've had some, I made a comment at the beginning of things or in the middle of things. Nothing beats that.
That one will always take the cake. And then we went golfing with him last year, and you were out or you couldn't make it or something. And so you didn't get the chance to kind of,
correct it,
fix the, mend the fences,
one
if
of the
you will.
wettest rounds of golf I've ever played.
Yeah, that was
too.
a long day. That was a rough one.
It was one of he was going in for the bro kind of high five hug, and I thought we were shaking hands, and we kind of stood there and we slowly leaned in and did the hug, and I slowly pat him on the back. And
Now, was there an acknowledgement in the immediate aftermath that was awkward?
Nope.
Because that's usually something that you're pretty good at.
It is.
And that would have cut the tension, I think, of we screwed that one up. That was a pretty bad handshake.
Get that right the next
Just
time.
get it out of the way right there instead of letting it kind of linger in the air. Because in the rest of the conversation, that's all either of you were thinking about.
I had that with a dad who his kid is on my team again, and I saw him at the first practice. And I kind of went in with the shake, and he put a fist out, and I just kept my hand out, and then he pivoted and shook my hand, and
should have just caught his knucks. You just catch the knucks, just grab his hand like that,
like it's a hook.
Yeah,
just shake.
Great to see you. Let's play some basketball.
2 things from last night that I wanted to carry over. The first was Jason Quick, who wrote a really good story on Ant. I think we highlighted that on the show, but I saw that he had a post on Twitter. I felt really bad for my Aussie family. They went to a game before they flew out of America, and it was the Nets game, and I went, you're going to a bad game. I just want to tell you now, bad game.
Crikey, there's no one here. Where are the people?
No one's making a shot. And I felt bad, but I at least told them, hey, the good news is there's such a bad team that you might be able to just move around and see different vantage points. Jason Quick posted, this might be the most sparsed out crowd of a Blazer game I can remember. And so I think this has finally reached the point where we've talked about people watching on television. People are not going to games.
Nor should they. It's not worth it.
And kudos to those people. Stop wasting your money.
Yes.
just do literally anything else or just watch the game at home.
Yes.
So I saw that. The other one was Anthony Simons was not good last night. There's no way around it, right? He had his typical every 2 to 3 games, plays bad, and then drops a bunch of points. That's kind of what he is. 3 of 12, 2 of 6 from 3. He finished with 11.
I'd like to tip my cap to him because they might have won the game if he showed up and played a decent one last night. So that helped the efforts. Thank you, Amp.
$100 million contract. You could say how bad the team is, but there should be whatever.
Yeah.
I actually don't want to highlight him. What are we to make of DeAndre Ayton as a basketball player anymore? And, like, seriously, I don't know who they're going to give that contract to.
Who is going to take that?
I mean, I call him the turnstile for a reason.
He quit last night.
He is
right. He just didn't get. He was 1 for 4.
Yep. Johnson benched him. He had a run there for like 4 minutes. He was like, "Dude, get out!" He sat
played
him down.
24 minutes. Yeah. Chris Murray played basically the same amount of minutes. Channing Frye, former Blazer legend,
yes,
drove a par 4 at our Langdon Golf Tournament years ago.
Yes, he did.
Channing Frye basically tweeted about him without naming him. And I don't blame any former player for not wanting to put a name on anything. But Channing Frye was like, there's a dude getting minutes that doesn't effing deserve it, thinks it, just jokes around when he's in there. And everybody concludes it's obvious who he's talking about. It's the guy on the $100 and what million contract that is not an impact player in any way, playing 24 minutes, shooting 1 of 4.
$132 million contract is the number. And if you were curious how much his salary is this year and how much he's taking home, it's north of $34 million. Imagine making $34 million and having it be fully guaranteed, and whatever you do will not impact that in any way, shape, or form.
I don't think he had joy last night.
I don't think he had any joy. This has been who he's been for, really at the end of Phoenix, and now you get a glimpse of it. It's funny how we've both traded centers to each other, and Phoenix has quickly learned why we were all like, can we get rid of Nurkic? And now they're sitting him down, and they don't want anything to do with him anymore.
I don't know if they were excited about that from the get.
They probably weren't, but I think they were excited to get out of Ayton, and then Blazer fans are like, hey, former number 1 overall pick, a lot of potential there. Look at the numbers. They're not that bad. This is the reason why sometimes we can fall in love with players and stat lines is because the majority of NBA fans don't watch NBA basketball. They watch their team play. And so the thought of DeAndre Ayton was a good idea. He's a number 1 pick. He's a 7-foot center. You look at the numbers that he's put up. He's been in an NBA Finals. You're like, man, this guy's pretty good. And then you get to watch him on a night in and night out basis. And you quickly realize how little effort that there is out there. And it's infuriating. And it's another one of those reasons why sometimes I have a hard time turning on and watching games. And I get that I don't really know how you handle it. Do you sit him down? You can't trade him. Nobody's going to take that contract right now unless you're attaching like a first-round pick with it to get rid of it. Because why would anybody sign up to pay him $35 million for next season?
How would that look for them?
It would look terrible. So what do we get instead? We get to watch him give 0 Fs the entire game, show 0 effort the entire game, and make a mockery of the organization and the NBA. It's an absolute joke at this point.
He's got 1 more year guaranteed on the deal. And by the way, it's most obvious thing ever. In the next game, he's probably going to have like 18 and 11, slightly better effort. This is kind of what he does.
But when you watch him, go see how many of his rebounds he's actually competing for and boxing a guy out versus how many are just
kind of bounced to him.
He's the only guy standing down there because somebody jacked up a 3 and they're already running back to the other end.
There was a clip from their game. When we were there in Dallas last Thursday. Was that the Dallas game? Something like that late last week. Yeah. Somebody put a clip together, and it was like a 45-second highlight in which Dallas missed 3 or 4 shots and got 3 or 4 offensive rebounds. And it was like, just watch DeAndre Ayton on this play. And it's him standing in the paint. His guy's 3 feet away. He's not out on him. He's not guarding anybody. Just watching the shot, standing there. Guards would cut behind him to grab the offensive rebound, kick it back out. It happened like 3 or 4 times in one possession for Dallas, and it epitomizes the effort that he shows.
I'm watching the end of this game last night. I got home in time to watch the fourth quarter. I see what's happening, and I'm like, oh, they're going to lose this game by double digits. There's no doubt. And I saw the quick post. I don't know what they're saying about television ratings. There's no way these ratings have gone up that much. This team's not that watchable. And I'm like, it's kind of crazy to say it. They don't really have, like, Tumani had a good night last night.
He was awesome last night.
He's been awesome. Shaden's got, I think, 5 or 6 straight games of 20-plus, so that's encouraging.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing with their point guard. They've got 3 starting centers on their team, one of which they just drafted. it's like every egg of the basket is literally in what happens in the draft. And the fact that they're in that position is kind of depressing because you can be bad, but you got to be bad with showing like, hey, this piece and that piece and this all changes. And I don't feel like that right now. And I don't think most of the fan base feels that way either with the ticket sales, with the way people are watching and following this team. I just think that's the reality, and that's the sad part. Let's get to NFL Zigger Zag next on The Fan.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Yeah, look, love to just offer opinion game to game on the Blazers. Am hopeful about Shaden. Am hopeful about two. Nice to see Scoot have that night. Set the franchise record for most three-pointers made at the youngest age, 39 points.
Career high for the youngest age, too, if I'm not mistaken, 39. He's only 21 years old.
And when it comes to team building and where they're positioned, it largely feels like the people chiming in, whether on social media or wherever, this is kind of where it goes.
To our left, his left, our left, his right.
We'll never fully agree on it, but
no.
I digress. We'll get to some NFL stuff. Context matters at the top of the hour. I want to get to NFL Zig or Zag. It is a Wednesday, 6:45. And so I got a loaded Zig or Zag to get to here.
Last week was one of your best. You're coming off a heater. Can you follow it up? Can we go back to back?
We'll see.
Or are we going to have an Anthony Simons performance? We're going to go 2-11 for tonight.
I hope it doesn't go like that.
Going to play no defense.
Let's start in Buffalo at WGR. WGR, where they compared the Patriot Dynasty era to the Chiefs Dynasty era. Take a listen to this.
There's a lot more to be desired about that dynasty, as sucky as it was, than there is in this one. Like, this one is just so much more deflating because it's the same people. It's not even a new team, really. It's Mahomes and
the Final Four
Kelsey
of the AFC are the same
Reed.
as last year.
Yeah.
The Final Four of the AFC are the exact same as last year.
That too.
It does not feel like we're going to get much quote-unquote parity. There is and we've been talking about it much of this year, there's a very distinct top and a very distinct bottom.
They made a good point in this conversation. I listened to this, and basically, like, the Patriots were around for 20 years. They didn't win every year for 20 years. There were these points where win, and then you're down, and then you win again, and then you're down. So far early, Patrick Mahomes has been conference championship or better every single season.
Every year.
Dirt, Zig or Zag, this era feels less competitive than the Pats dynasty era.
I'm going to zig on that. I agree with the take. There was a stretch. So New England had that great run early with Brady where they won, 3 and 4 years or whatever. The last team to go back-to-back until Kansas City did it last year. 2001, 2003, 2004, they won Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. They then went a decade without winning a championship.
It's a long time.
And I think we kind of forget that period. That was one of the glorious periods of the NFL. Where
they were around, though.
They were around.
There.
They went and lost to the Giants in 2007 with the undefeated team. They went back and lost to the Giants again in 2011. They lost in multiple AFC championship games to Baltimore, to Denver, to Flacco, and to Peyton Manning. And so they came close, and then they broke through again in 2014 with the win over Seattle, and then they rattled off a couple of more, including another Super Bowl loss in there. So I would argue this run feels a little bit more to me like the 2014 on Patriots, because they went on that 10-year stretch where they did get to 2 Super Bowls, but they lost both of them competitive, and then they had a run again where it felt like every year for 5 years they were either in the Super Bowl AFC championship game or winning the Super Bowl, and there wasn't a lot of hope about beating them, but I zig on that, man. It's demoralizing right now as a fan.
Final thing I'll say on that, if they win again, it's going to feel absolutely true, because at least even after 2014, you still sprinkled in other teams there. And right now, quarterbacks that have won in the Mahomes era, not counting Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford.
That's it.
That's the list. The Houston Texans are a big underdog going into their game against those Chiefs. Brian Baldinger, if Houston's going to win, how will they do it?
But they do have the ability, if you drop back and throw, to get guys that can get home, that can get to the quarterback. So it's going to be a priority for Andy Reid and that offense to really make sure that they're protecting their edges, helping Tooney out, helping Juwan Taylor out on the other side, and, making sure the edges are protected where you can't get, quick pressure onto Mahomes.
Zig or Zag, the Houston defense will drag this game into a close fourth-quarter contest.
I'm going to zig on this, and it's not necessarily just as much about Houston. It's also about Kansas City, and that's just kind of who they've been all year. I would be pretty shocked if Houston went on the road and won in Kansas City. I've resigned myself to the fact that the Chiefs are going to run the table and go win another championship. I just have to have that mental space and then hopefully be surprised when it doesn't happen. They won 15 games this year. Kansas City did 15-2 in the regular season. Obviously, the last game of the year is a bit of an outlier. Of their 15 wins, I believe only 4 were by double digits. So this is a team that has played close games all season long. They're dominant. They're probably going to win this weekend. But you tell me Houston's got a defense to kind of muck it up a little bit. Stroud makes enough plays. Kansas City's a little funky offensively for a quarter or two. They win the game by 9. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I think we got a one possession potentially game late.
To Detroit, where Dan Campbell made his weekly radio appearance on 97.1 The Ticket, talking about his team going into a big postseason, but also taking on a surprise Commanders group.
Well, I just think we're more experienced. You know, the vast majority of our group, the core of our group now have been through it and been through it together. You know, you're a young, hungry, eyes wide open group, but they were very mature, handled it well last year. Now we know what that is, and you don't lose the hunger, you just gain some experience. We know what's coming in here to face us, a team that hadn't been in this position in a long time. They got their culture moving in the right direction, quarterback's exciting. So we know we got a very good opponent in here that's going to be hungry, but the good news is we're an experienced team that's hungry as hell too.
Sounds like good news could be coming with David Montgomery potentially as well. Dirt Zigger Zag, the Lions have the second best chance to win the Super Bowl in your mind.
I'll zig on that. Because of how I feel about Kansas City in the AFC, unfortunately, I still would take, I think what I saw last week, or I guess would have been 2 weeks ago in the last week of the season from Detroit defensively, Anzalone being back helped a ton. Like, they're getting healthier, it seems like, at certain spots at the right time. Montgomery being back will be big for them offensively. I still think they're the team to beat in the NFC. I've kind of felt that way all year, although it dipped a little bit at the end of the year when their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. I don't trust Jalen Hurts, especially having to go on the road into Detroit to win that game potentially. So, yeah, considering I think Detroit will win the NFC, I'm going to zig on that they have the second best chance to win the Super Bowl.
And finally, we will go to Philadelphia. You mentioned Jalen Hurts, where the Eagles will host the Rams this weekend, but friend of the show, Spike Eskin of the afternoon show on Sports Radio WIP, says they must do this.
I felt like after 4 turnovers, the defensive performance we had an opportunity to put our foot on their throat. And I just sort of I don't want to be Dan Campbell, but I think we need to regain some of that aggressiveness, some of that risk-taking. I think we're a little too risk-averse. And when you're getting into teams like we're going to play now, the Rams, and then probably the Detroit Lions, and then whoever, if we're lucky enough to play in the Super Bowl, I think we're going to need those points. And I think this ultra-conservative version of the Eagles needs to go away.
So, Dirt, Zigger Zag, to win the NFC and possibly win the Super Bowl, the Eagles' aggressiveness offensively is the key to it all.
Yeah. I'm going to zag on that because I agree with the overall point, but I don't think that's the difference that's going to keep them from winning or losing a Super Bowl. I think it's going to be their passing attack and it's going to be their quarterback if they come up short. They were +4 in the turnover margin. Green Bay fumbled the opening kickoff of the game and handed them an easy touchdown right out of the gate from 20 yards out. When you're +4 at home in a playoff game and you have Green Bay play the way that they played, on top of that, by the way, missing a field goal as well, and you only win the game 22-10, that to me is a little discouraging offensively. So, yes, I would like to see them be more aggressive offensively. That's been something that Sirianni traditionally has been, but sometimes goes into a turtle shell in big moments in playoff games. I think the biggest question for them remains Jalen Hurts and what are you going to get in your passing attack. So I'll zag on that. It's a big part of it, but not the number one part of it. That's all on Jalen Hurts.
All right, there you go. A divisional round NFL zig or zag. How was that?
That was good. That was good zig or zag.
I know there wasn't a Herbert one in there to make
the
it
Herbert one, yeah, there wasn't. A few of those made me think.
But the Lions, second best team are the Lions maybe to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, to your chief point maybe, but could be Bills, Ravens,
Okay, I hope Houston beats Kansas City this week, and that take ages like, hot milk in the middle of the summer. The Pats and Chiefs one was the best one.
Yeah. It was a good conversation to WGR's point. Like, they got into talking about their own game, and then it was just like, it also just feels so deflating.
This sucks, dude.
And they made such good points of, like, those Pats runs were amazing for 20 years, but the amount of, like, Denvers and Seattles and
Baltimore got one in there.
Baltimore got one in there. And look, it's still early in the Mahomes era. It's not 20 years. But damn it, if he wins and he's in another conference championship game and then they go back to the Super Bowl, we need to see him lose.
I need to see him lose.
Yeah, and we saw him lose once to Brady.
But that was no offensive line. It felt a little bit different. I know Burrow got him once in an AFC title game.
I need to see him lose in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's where it needs to be the most. All right, there we go. NFL Zigger Zag every Wednesday at 6:45. Loaded second hour. Let's start with some quarterback context. It does matter. Next on The Fan.
This is Rick
station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the Fan, Trailblazers unable to take advantage of a reeling Nets squad at Moda Center. They lose 132-114 despite a career-high 39 points from Scoot Henderson that included him shooting 8 of 10 from three-point range. The bigger concern now is rookie center Donovan Clingan left the floor late in the fourth quarter with a right ankle injury, the severity of which still unknown. Blazers will host the Clippers Thursday night. Oregon State head football coach Trent Bray announcing Tuesday he will assume the defensive coordinator duties for 2025. That after Keith Hayward announced over the weekend that he would resign from his post. In the NFL, the Lions excited to see running back David Montgomery back at practice. He's expected to play this Saturday against the Commanders. He missed the last 3 regular season games for Detroit with a sprained MCL. Rams head coach Sean McVay told the LA media he expects tight end Tyler Higbee to play Sunday against the Eagles. He left their wild card game in the second quarter with a chest contusion. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard for the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
I'd like to say something.
This is Dirt and Sprague.
Back in '82, I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brendan Sprague.
God, there was one week when you wore sweatpants every day.
Oh, you know what? If they were Sean John sweatpants, it would have been fine. But because they're Costco brand, it's like the worst thing I could do.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in the second hour of the program. Dirt and Sprague with you on this Wednesday.
So I could wish my boot right up your ass.
We got KP looming over there for the Friday show.
No.
Yeah. We have Corn Pop fills in for him. KP might be looming on Friday.
Oh, we getting Corn Pop on Friday? We getting Corn Pop Friday?
No, we have Swag, but I've given him a new nickname during hoop season.
Swag's got a new nickname?
Yeah, KP.
KP?
Yep. On the shows he has to work calling men's basketball till about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Usually the next day he's a Krabby Patty.
Mm-hmm. I'm in sports hell.
So we're calling him KP on Friday.
Now, if it's Krabby Patty...
It's a SpongeBob Krabby.
Yeah, it's a SpongeBob.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm thinking of the
reference.
spelling of crab, and I was
Yeah,
like, maybe, okay.
yeah.
All right, hey, I'm okay with that.
It's mail sack.
Mail
You know
sack.
what
I get what you're doing. I'm
Yeah.
not a big SpongeBob guy, so I didn't quite catch the reference right out of the gate.
You know, he might be really tired. Pilots potentially losing to Pacific. He's not going to want to deal with us.
I mean, they're probably going to lose, to be honest.
By the way, the funniest possible thing that happened yesterday was the college basketball bed music not actually properly being loaded.
That was pretty good.
And our new overlord, Ryan Cooley, came in and was like, I was listening in my car because I knew that was not going to get played properly.
He said he waited in his car before coming into the building just to hear if Swag was going to get the music right. He had to sit in the parking lot for a couple of minutes.
And in the most Swag fashion, it was not right, but of course it was mislabeled, not he chose the wrong one.
Well, look, as long as we are acknowledging this, now that we do have a new overlord in Hefe, I would like to say I think the New York Giants are the best run organization in the NFL. I think they do everything right. Their 2 Super Bowl runs are brilliant dominance. I think their head coach is awesome. Their GM is a genius, and the future is very bright for them. Go Yankees, by the way.
Another team that got 2 in the Brady era.
Yeah, they did.
And wait, who would be the most New York Giants team to win in the Mahomes era?
Are we just talking this year or in general?
In general, in your mind, when you think of the Giants who won it in 11 and 07, what team is that in the NFC that's similar to you right now?
There's a bit of... no, that's almost disrespectful to the quarterback because I think Stafford is way better than Eli Manning. But I would say the Rams getting another one. Yeah. There's a little bit of that.
The Rams getting 2 in this
era?
The
Rams were not that good. They were good. That's that's
they
unfair.
were 1-4, and they won in a
They got to a really bad start. They were in a bad division,
Yeah.
but they have a good coach, good quarterback. They've gotten healthy at the end of the year. There's something there of if the Rams stumble their way to a Super Bowl this year.
I was thinking Bucks,
and he would have 2. What?
Yeah, the Buccaneers.
Buccaneers getting another one because of Brady, and then if it's Baker or whoever, that would be interesting. Also, God, you're such an ass kisser.
Go Yankees, man. I'm a big Aaron Judge guy. All rise.
Are you?
Big Aaron Judge. Always earn your pinstripes, baby.
Swag, why don't we pull the tape from the World Series, see what he was saying about Aaron Judge?
I was rooting for the Yankees, but that was mainly because of who their opponent was, and that didn't go very far.
Josh Pate's going to join us at 7:40 today. We'll talk some college football. My team was in the college football storyline yesterday.
You were. You guys made a decision that is very interesting and controversial to some.
I felt bad. Andrew Nimick was the one that alerted me to this because I wasn't on social media, and he sends me like kind of train of thought text, like boom, 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 boom.
Here's my reaction.
And I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, and I responded just yikes, nothing else.
A little apathetic?
I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
I understand that.
My team's not playing, and it's January, and there's just so much time between now and then.
There's a long ways to go until the season
I'm
starts.
kind of in basketball mode with NFL playoff mode. We'll talk about it.
Got the Zags in town tomorrow night. You got bigger fish to fry currently than worrying about who's calling plays defensively in September.
Context matters in sports, and we, you, me, Swag, we all certainly that do this job and in fandom, we all sometimes lack proper context, right? We talked about something off of the air that I thought was interesting to bring back. I've already said it yesterday at the 7 a.m. hour. I'm probably going to say it 8 more times, so I will annoy people with it. I'm the most excited for Bills-Ravens. I don't know how you're not. I'm going to effort to go to Buffalo tomorrow for the ticker. Sal Capaccio, our good friend over there, legendary media member. I want to know where this ranks for him of most excited because they've played before, but this one feels a little different. Lamar's a little more seasoned. Josh Allen's having this great year.
Yeah.
I think they're both worthy of being MVPs. But there's going to be a loser in that game, and there's going to be a narrative. And I know this. You know this. Everybody knows this. Some of you will have a narrative in your minds from it. And I just want context to this conversation because there is in no way any type of game. Lamar throws 3 picks. Josh Allen has 2 fumbles and a pick. One of them loses. That's going to make me go into next year and go, oh, I don't know about one of these guys. They're 2 of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league. Full stop.
I'd say 2 of the top 4. I think there's a hardcore 4 that are top of the league, and that's non-debatable.
Whatever that order is for you, 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter to me. They are, debatably top 3, right? With Mahomes being there and Burrow out there too, but Bengals didn't win, whatever. Anyways, the context will be lacking, and somebody's going to lose this and be labeled something. And if it's Lamar, we already know what that's going to be. If it's Josh Allen, it's going to continue to linger for him, even in a year where, quote unquote, they weren't expected to go this far.
Yeah.
So context is going to matter. And I'm afraid we're going to lack it after Sunday.
Well, there's just not a lot of context or nuance when it comes to quarterback decisions. All the credit goes to them when they win, and all the blame goes to them when they lose. And sometimes there's validity on either side of that argument. Sometimes it's not their fault at all that they won or not their fault at all that they've lost. So that's the first point I think you need to bring up in the game is how do they both play? Does one of them come out and throw 4 picks and 2 pick sixes, and you're like, all right, well, he lost his team the game. That's the reason that they fell. Then it's going to be a little more of a muddy picture. If they both come out and play well, and one of them just beats the other one, or one other kicker makes a kick, or because the game's going to be potentially played in a snowstorm, did somebody drop a punt late in the game, and then you hand the other team a short field and they win 20-17. I hope that we can come to a rational conclusion from this game. And I think there's a lot of historical precedents that would back this up. I think this exists mainly right now. NFL coaches probably fall into this too, but I feel like we get a lot of this in college coaching and with NFL quarterbacks, that there are 2 figures, well now 3, that have completely clouded our picture of what realistic expectations should be. This was Nick Saban in college football, and it was Brady and then leading into Mahomes in the NFL. Instead of acknowledging that they are some of, if not the greatest of all time to do what they have done, and say that is the outlier. It's not normal to do that. That will never likely happen again. And to hold them up to that standard, it is unrealistic and unfair to the other athletes. We look at them and say, you're a failure if you can't live up to that standard. How have you not won a national championship yet? How have you not won a Super Bowl yet? How have you not been to a Super Bowl yet? When in reality, it's just a really difficult thing to do. And you could look at great quarterbacks, no matter what era or generation you want to go to, and realize, 1, it's not easy to win a Super Bowl. 2, you need a lot of things to go your way. And just because Mahomes is doing it with one of the best defenses in the NFL, one of the best head coaches in the history of the league, an incredibly well-run organization. He's had historically great weapons for the majority of his career. Not quite has been the case the last 2 years, but early on it was Hill and Kelsey, and now he still has Kelsey. I think we have to just kind of throw those examples out and judge people the way that we normally would, and I know it's very hard for some fans to do.
Yeah, but, like, look, Lamar could very well throw 2 pick sixes. He had a turnover in their last playoff game that kind of decided things in a windy, cold game.
Yeah, he also wasn't the one that fumbled into the end zone.
Well, that's
100-yard line.
It's 100% true, but he got most of the share of that blame for that loss last year because they didn't score enough points. The playoff tape is this: Lamar is 3-4 in the playoffs in his career. Josh Allen 6-5. Josh Allen has 29 touchdowns and 6 picks, 3,600 yards, 102.3 passer rating. Lamar is 11-9 touchdowns to turnovers. This is total turnovers, not just picks. 2,100 yards, 81.2.
Yep.
And so the narrative's kind of already started with Lamar. We heard it during contract talks. He either can't stay healthy to people or he hasn't won in the playoffs. I just think it's kind of ridiculous. Like, yeah, he plays bad and they lose. And what are the Ravens moving on?
You want to get rid of that guy?
Not a chance.
You want to trade that guy?
Peyton Manning is an example I would use here, right? Peyton Manning is all-time to many.
All-time great.
Okay. His career, 14-13 in the playoffs.
Yeah. And until he was carried by a Denver defense late, how many rings did he have?
Didn't win a playoff game until 2004. He was drafted in 98.
Mm-hmm.
And after losing to the Saints, remember that Super Bowl?
I do.
That loss for his career at that point, 9-9.
Yeah.
And
over a decade into his career at that point.
John Elway going into the year that they won their first Super Bowl. So think about how. So it's 83 going in the 97 season. They play the playoffs in 98.
Almost 2 decades.
He was 8-8.
Yeah.
Like, I just, the context is, they're not going to have context to this conversation come Monday.
No.
We're going to react to what we see. I can't believe Lamar threw that. I can't believe Josh, didn't see him coming. That's not the same. It's going to be what narrative forms, and sometimes it gets dumb, and it's absolutely going to get dumb with whoever the loser is, unless they both just absolutely ball out, and this is Justin Tucker kicking a field goal or the Buffalo Bills kicking a field goal at the buzzer. Both quarterbacks play. Okay, great. That was a great football game. But history says one of these guys might not play up to the level they've played, and if that happens, the hot takes are going to come flying in. We're going to lack context because guess what? Both quarterbacks will be franchise guys next year for those teams.
And they're going to be frontrunners to win the MVP, and their organizations are not going anywhere.
I think your point on the Brady, Mahomes, Saban stuff is 100% spot on. It's just like you're talking about 3
legends
and unicorns where Brady, Mahomes were awesome with what they did, right? But they also needed things to happen for them. They had to go to the right place. They had to have the right coach, have the right pieces. Whereas, Nick Saban, to Shane Gillis's point, like, you had bagmen. You won't admit that publicly, but we know.
Yep.
And so Saban was all-time legendary stuff who's kind of forming the programs, but it's the SEC. And the SEC was not playing by the same rules as everybody else. So, like, my point is those are all-time legends who also had to have things break the right way. We're watching Josh Allen have to do it in Buffalo, which is right now historically known as Heartbreak City Losers, and Baltimore, which has been a great, stable organization, but it's hard to break through. Joe Flacco, not a Hall of Famer, got one. Trent Dilfer was the quarterback of the other one.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a Trent Dilfer-led thing. That was the defense.
Dominant defense. And I think the 2 things that those teams have largely had in common, or at least have recently, is that Baltimore has never quite had the horses around Lamar, in my mind, in order to be taken to the next level. Lamar has had to essentially do it all by himself, and that's where this year feels a little bit different. You have Derrick Henry. Maybe that's enough to overcome it, and they can ride him in a snowy game, and he runs their way to an AFC title game again. In Buffalo, I know Diggs has been great, and he's had other guys to target, but they traded their number 1 wide receiver in the offseason.
Yes, they did.
And to your point originally at the beginning of the segment of, like, we all looked at Buffalo this year and said, how are you going to do it without Diggs? Well, here they are. And so I hope that kind of context ties into the conversation and the narrative as well. These guys are incredible quarterbacks. I want to enjoy the game and not assassinate one of them in the aftermath of it because they didn't win a playoff game. Because breaking news, after Sunday, when that game happens, their careers are not over. That will not be the last time we see them play in the playoff, to the point of the Peyton Manning stat and the John Elway. John Elway went 14 years, and he was known as one of the bigger chokers, can't win a playoff. You look at his record, 55-10 in a Super Bowl, and then he won 2 at the end of his career, rode off into the sunset.
Here's Terrell Davis.
And he's an all-time legend, and that's the way that we view him, right? And so their careers are not over after the game on Sunday. Let's enjoy it, and I hope that whoever wins it beats Kansas City in the AFC title.
Josh Pate's going to join us at 7:40. Dirt and Sprague back with more on 1080 The Fan.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Josh Pate's going to join us coming up at 7:40. We'll go to Pate State University, where we seem to have similar feelings of the national championship game. You bring up an article from a friend of the show that I thought was a really good point before we started today, and we can get into that before we talk to Josh, because it's so true. I'm not picking Ohio State because I'm super jacked about watching the Buckeyes hoist another trophy.
No, and this was the question I had out of it. So it was Ari Wasserman had a take of Marcus Freeman has done the impossible. And by that, he means he has made Notre Dame likable. And I think the initial question you have to ask people is, one, do you agree? Like, is Notre Dame likable to you? Because it might not be the case for everybody.
Like, is this a different Notre Dame team than years past?
Is this like Zion with Duke? Like, is that the effect that you have of, like, everybody hates Duke, and then you see Zion throw down a dunk, and you're like, this guy's kind of cool.
Yeah,
like,
Zion, Cooper Flag.
You kind of root for him a little bit. Like, it's different than, like, a Paulus or a J.J. Redick or a Christian Leitner.
To your point, I don't know if it has gotten people to be more pro-Notre Dame. What I would say is what's hilarious is watching Brian Kelly say, I'm not rooting against them to not win a championship. I didn't leave because I couldn't win a championship. It's like, dude, it's kind of what you said.
It's basically what you said when you left.
And I would say infinitely more. I've never really rooted for Notre Dame. I didn't always hate them. I've always, the gold helmet.
I think it's because they haven't been as dominant in our lifetime. Like, I think if you're Swag's age and you remember Notre Dame being Notre Dame,
like
you hated
40s
them
in the 50s?
In the 40s and the 50s with Newt Rockne when all those guys winning champion, the Four Horsemen. He had a Four Horsemen jersey back in the day, man.
So I think rushed the field.
Like it
was all white people.
In our adult lifetime, legitimately, like they had not won a big game. They always lost.
Well, yeah,
every
in
time.
our lifetime, yes.
So it's
100%.
like they weren't that evil empire villain that's like, oh God, Notre Dame again. It was like, Notre Dame, really? Like they were in the championship against. It's a little bit different.
What I would add to that too, because I didn't really care about the 2012 Notre Dame team. I was one of those, like, it was kind of a cool Manti Te'o and
his girlfriend
the
died.
dead girlfriend
RIP,
thing. Like,
man.
Yeah, I was one of those people. I was like, that's a cool story, but I didn't buy them that year. I would say my feelings on Notre Dame were more like the Giants or the Cowboys. Let's use the Cowboys. They're getting shoved down our throats on television again.
No more Notre Dame conversation.
Can't win.
Yeah.
They're not one of those. And Freeman last year, they took a step, and this year, obviously, they got to the title game. 100% right, Wasserman is he has made them far more likable, and a big part of that isn't just that they win, it's that I could not stand their previous coach, and I still root against him.
Now we all hate LSU. LSU was cool with Orgeron and Burrow, and look at that, smoking out Joe Burrow, and now it's like, oh, God, get LSU out of my life, man.
Yeah, there's a
nothing
to
do
that.
with Brian Kelly.
Right, yes.
Have you always hated Notre Dame, Swag? Was that a deep hatred for you in sports fandom?
Because their last title
Yankees
came in
and
Lakers.
Lakers.
It was Lou Holtz, 88, 89, somewhere in there.
That was the last time they won a
Dirt
championship.
was born in that, like,
yeah,
that era.
There was a sense of entitlement to Notre Dame back in the 70s and 80s that doesn't exist. I mean, still a little bit now.
It's Yankee-esque, though, isn't it? It's like, yeah, they've won. I've seen them win. A lot of that came
it's
when.
more about nostalgia than.
There weren't actually national championship games. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I'm going
go
even
win your
further
bowl
back
game,
than
and
that.
it's like, hey, we're number one. Okay, you're a champion. There you go. That's how we used to
The
give them
Notre
out.
Dame Fighting Irish are 6-1 and the national champion.
Like, I think there's no doubt they're more likable, but I also wonder how much of it has to do with who
that has
they've
to do
played.
with Freeman. Marcus Freeman has a lot.
Freeman has a ton to do with it, for sure. But, like, if they didn't play Penn State in the semifinal, talk about unlikable.
Yeah, well, that's
a little bit of a history there.
You know what's weird is that
and Ohio State in a national championship game, like, nobody likes Ohio State.
It is Freeman. And what's weird about that, he has no real media charisma at all.
Not really. It's a pretty boring interview, actually.
Isn't that odd? Like, how often do you get a coach like Dan Campbell? You know, man, I just believe in that guy. Like, when they're raw, the right way, you tend to, like, want to root and like them. And then they can also be in-your-face unlikable, the way Brian Kelly is. He's about as entertaining as paint drying in interviews. But the Northern Illinois story, despite losing that game, like, Marcus Freeman's willing to have phone conversations with the coach. And you're like, that's a really... what sportsmanship that is.
It was actually cool. It showed him not being stubborn in a moment of embarrassment
100%.
of like, yeah, what the hell did you figure out about us?
Right.
I'd love to know that answer.
But then he gets interviewed and he's just like, yeah, these guys are great. I give him all the credit, and we're just gonna keep trying to play our brand of football. And I'm just like, kind of boring, but seems like a nice guy, down to earth. It's not very. It doesn't happen very often where the coach is boring in an interview, and he becomes very, very likable.
Yeah, there's a take of him or a side of him that you don't see much unless you're because they have a show on Peacock you probably haven't watched. Not many people have. I haven't seen all of them, but I watched an episode or two, mainly because I wanted to see the Northern Illinois episode. They did a documentary all season long on their team, and it's on Peacock.
Like an in-season Hard Knocks?
Like an in-season Hard Knocks thing, kind of like. And I just watched the Northern Illinois episode because that was funny. And then they have the videos they'll tweet out with their social teams, similar to what everybody else is doing right now, of pregame speeches and lock. So you see the other side of Marcus Freeman. And that is the side that I enjoy watching because he's one of those guys that you would love to play for. Like when you see him behind the scenes and the kind of coach that he is, you understand why he resonates so much with his players and why when they lost Brian Kelly, he became the no-brainer hire for them. And boy, oh boy, is it worked out.
We're going to get Josh Pate at 7:40. Don't forget the Vancouver Ford text line is where you can reach us at 503-864-6326. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them at VancouverFord.com. We'll talk to Pate State. We'll get to the Oregon State news that came out, other college football odds and ends. Dirt and Sprague back with more on The Fan.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, Scoot Henderson, a career-high 39 points. He was 8 of 10 from 3, and it wasn't enough to take on the Brooklyn Nets, who ended a 5-game losing streak with a 132-114 win in Portland. The bigger concern now for the Blazers, rookie center Donovan Clingan left the floor late in the fourth quarter with a right ankle sprain. The severity will be assessed today. Blazers hosting the Clippers Thursday night. With the unexpected resignation of defensive coordinator Keith Hayward over the weekend, Oregon State head football coach Trent Bray announcing he will assume the DC duties for the Beavers in 2025. A couple of injury updates for divisional round teams. The Lions, glad to see David Montgomery back at practice. He's expected to be at running back Saturday night against the Commanders. And for Rams, head coach Sean McVay told the media tight end Tyler Higbee is expected to play Sunday against the Eagles. He left their wild card win in the second quarter with a chest contusion. College hoops tonight on 910 ESPN. Portland, number 9 Kansas visiting number 2 Iowa State. Tip at 4, pregame coverage at 3:45. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Did you score a smart speaker?
Mode.
It's crunch time. Let's go! Where Dirt and Sprague crunch the hot topics you want to hear.
What's the pressure? Don't sit here and act like there's no... We get nervous teeing off in front of a gallery on the 10th hole at Eastmoreland.
Crunch time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, with memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com.
All right, Crunch Time brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, online, crunch.com. Get to Josh Pate coming up in a moment.
Did you see, I forget the kid's name. I think it's Vasquez. There's a kid that's on Ohio State's team.
Transferred from Michigan. Yeah, he can win back-to-back titles.
But winning them from Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back it's pretty crazy.
It's a little unique. If there's an example of modern college football, there's your point. What's college football like in 2024? Yeah. Well, let me tell you, a guy from 1978. He played for Michigan last year, and this year he plays for Ohio State.
Yeah.
What? How does that work? A couple thoughts came into the Vancouver Ford text line. You can interact with us there during the show, 503-864-6326. We were talking about Notre Dame and likability and Marcus Freeman. Somebody telling us that the Manti Te'o girlfriend was a lie by him. Like, we're well aware of that. His girlfriend didn't actually die.
Oh, as if like we didn't know yet?
I don't know. Maybe he didn't think we were joking there. We're well aware that Linnea Kakua was not a real person and she didn't actually die.
I was at an Oregon State football game the day that it went on Twitter that his girlfriend got in a car accident and died.
It was a shocking moment. You're like, oh my God.
Well, because nobody had seen her really. Nobody knew her.
No.
And then like you just heard his girlfriend who he was in love with died. And you're like, oh my God, how tragic. And then they have this season where they win these games they probably shouldn't have.
He's
Stanford,
a linebacker, Heisman finalist.
He's a Heisman finalist. It was such a good story. Yeah, we all saw the interview. Show me how you did the voice. Oh,
hey, Manti. I will say that his ability to like still have a career and be around like that has to be one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to a human in the history of mankind.
I
had
used to
a
have
fake
this opinion.
internet girlfriend that was a man who then pretended to die. He was at the Heisman Trophy ceremony talking about his dead girlfriend who didn't actually exist.
Yeah.
And then it all came out to the world that he was dating a man on the internet that he thought was a woman.
Yeah.
He got that was catfishing before getting catfishing was a thing.
I feel like the show Catfish was starting to come out at that point. But yeah, he was one of the first public catfishes.
On NFL Network. He's still out.
He's good on the NFL Network.
He's good. Good for Manti Te'o.
And he also, that documentary he did, I forget who did. It might have been the NFL Network or Netflix.
It was Netflix. There was like, I think their Untold series or whatever.
I thought it was really good.
Really good.
And like, he came from a different... He didn't grow up in a traditional situation that people did with girlfriends and dating and like, big-time football player, goes to Notre Dame. Kind of a shock to the world that he chose to go to Notre Dame from where he was coming from. And, not everybody dated online, but that's a pretty popular way for people to find their significant other. He just never met her in person.
Never met her. Well, I think he eventually did, but I digress.
Yeah, well, they faked it.
Somebody saying that rooting for Notre Dame for the first time since 1982 because all the other final coaches are absolutely insufferable. People saying Brian Kelly killed a kid. Yeah, I mean, that kind of happened. And then Ohio State trying to trademark the word "the" makes them public enemy number one. So that's why he's rooting for Notre Dame in the national championship.
I largely agree with most of that. It is the Ryan Day part, like dyeing the beard still. And then also, but Lou Holtz, it's kind of funny if Lou Holtz and Notre Dame lose for that. But
there is that.
Largely, I'm rooting for Notre Dame.
Let's go Irish. Crunch Time brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, online at crunch.com. We got a lot of local college football notes I want to get to at the top of the hour. Josh Pate will join us next. We'll preview the national title, talk about a couple of headlines around the world of college football. That's next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainshomservices.com.
Understanding that you have no trade clause in your contract, what's your message to any team that may reach out to the Steelers to gauge interest or availability in your services?
I have no message. Save your time.
There's Mike Tomlin yesterday basically telling teams, don't try to trade for me. And look, we talked about Tomlin. It may be time to move on in our minds. I appreciate a guy that's like, I don't want to move. I got a great job. I don't want to go anywhere.
We've been there for 20 years, man. We had Steeler fans reaching out to us yesterday about takes on Tomlin that want to put a little more blame on him than maybe we're giving them credit for it. It's a weird spot. Fan base is not happy right now.
Who's stinking it up? Steelers. They've lost their last 5 playoff games. Not been good. Outscored 73-0 in the first quarter of their last 6 playoff games. Brought to you by 3 Mountains Home Services. Make your home services delightful. Let the pros tackle the projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. 3 Mountains Home Services. That's 3mountainshomeservices.com.
Is there a
World of sports. Some stories can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
Pelican Brewing presents The Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague hit the big stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague is poured by Pelican Brewing, your local coastal brewery. Independently brewing since 1996. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach.
All right, Daily Ticker time on a Wednesday, brought to you, as always, by our good friends at Pelican Brewing, now offering their signature Pelican West Coast IPA on a shelf near you. Raise your glass, drink on. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach. We only got one more college football game to go. This is it. One more, and then the season is all over. We got to sit around and wait until next August for it all to kick off again. But as this man will tell us, there is no off season, and that's why you stay glued to the show, because there's always stuff going on in the sport of college football. Joining us now is the commissioner, Josh Pate. His college football show every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, 5 o'clock our time, live on YouTube. Give him a follow on Twitter at Josh Pate CFB. He is the best out there covering the sport. Pate, good morning to you. Thanks as always for continuing to hop on. Where are we at in the hope that we're going to get an exciting, entertaining game on Monday night?
Okay, first, can I just address something? Could I have the floor for a second?
You go fire away, man.
Okay. I don't know why all of you have to get your daubers down, as Meemaw would say, when the end of the season is on the horizon, because it doesn't have to be the end of the season. Yeah. What if I told you there is a place that just does college football all year long? And you're in luck. I am the place. My channel is the place. You don't need to be sad on January 21st. You don't need to be mired in the misery of no football until August. There's plenty to talk about. So now that I have stroked both of your cheeks respectfully and I have brought you back to earth emotionally,
thank you.
Let me tell you this game could be ugly. Okay, yeah. Monday night could be bad. It could be a tough watch. Now I've painted the path for Notre Dame. I've got a scenario in my head. So I think they need a game where they can win with 20 points. That's tough, but it's doable. They played Ohio State last year, held them to 17. Now, they only scored 14, so they still lost. Texas held Ohio State to 21 offensive. And one of those touchdowns was that crazy pass right at the end of the half. So, defensively, Texas put forth the effort needed to hold Ohio State down enough, but they couldn't get it done. Okay, so Notre Dame's got to have that. I think of this game as kind of a grab bag game, of the kind of game where everything's got to go right for you, and then there's this grab bag, and there's some stuff in there, and you probably need a couple of these things to happen. So one of those things would obviously be winning the turnover battle. One of those things would be scoring on special teams or scoring on defense. One of those things would be forcing 2 or 3 fruitless extended drives. That would be the kind of drive where Ohio State's 11 plays, 78 yards, and then they just turn it over on downs in the red zone, or you force a fumble. And they held the ball a lot, and they got their offensive numbers, but there were no points that resulted from it. You need a couple of really big individual efforts. You need your explosive play to show back up. Like when they played Indiana, Notre Dame had that 98-yard touchdown run, and they really haven't had a bunch of explosive runs since then. So they need to kind of have that show up, or have a couple of those explosive passes that they found somehow against Penn State. Like they need a grab bag of that, and then they also just need to play really, really fundamentally sound football. The problem is all that stuff can happen. Like a lot of it can be going right for Notre Dame. If Ohio State's defensive line chooses to shut the game down, the game's over, unless a lot of other crazy stuff happens. That is a unit that is allowing less than 70 yards per game rushing in the postseason. They have recorded 16 sacks in the postseason. That's just 3 games. And there are no signs that they're going to slow down. So it's tough. There are rays of light shining through, but there are a lot of obstructions blocking the full ray of sunshine from coming in.
Yeah. My co-host has basically an almost 1-year-old, and the season is about to be over. But to your point, it's really not. I feel like when you talk about that, you are his happy place, like in Happy Gilmore. He needs to visualize you at a piano smiling with a hot woman with beer, and it's college football all day in his life. So I'm glad that you said what you said about the show rolling on. I'm curious what you think if Ohio State does to Notre Dame, what I also think, which, by the way, I ended up being one of those fools you mentioned on your show yesterday of don't give a score. And I'm like 45-17. Ohio State's going to thump Notre Dame. We tend to both think it's going to be a blowout, but I'm going score. I'll be a fool. I am a fool. If that happens, if Ohio State wins, how funny is it going to be to watch Buckeye fan talk about Ryan Day after hoisting a national championship?
Oh, it's going to be terrible. And by terrible, I mean great, because there are going to be a lot of people trying to dunk on you, a lot of people trying to yell, "Go Bucks, what now?" in your face, and a lot of people trying to yell at the rest of the world for ever doubting them. You're going to go back in their recent Twitter history, and less than a month ago, they will have called for Ryan Day's job. You'll go and look at their message board history, and they will have 19-paragraph deep threads about what's wrong with the program. Again, these will not be multiple-year-old posts like Michigan fan when they won it last year. You could have gone back 3 years, 4 years, and found someone calling for Harbaugh's job. You could go back a month and find some folks calling for Ryan Day's job that are going to be in your face daring you to say something if they win this thing next Monday night. And you know what? Maybe we should celebrate that. Maybe it's a beautiful thing.
Very well could be. Josh Pate is our guest. He's the commissioner of the sport. Go give him a follow on Twitter at Josh Pate CFB. There is no off season. His show will go on all year long. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, 5 o'clock live on YouTube. You can catch the podcast wherever you find your podcast. You would ask a question that honestly was a great thought experiment for me. And I don't know if it's just going back to, we all reminisce about childhood and fond memories. Like one of my first, age myself, one of my first vivid college football memories nationally was Charles Woodson in the Rose Bowl in 1997, and that year they shared a title with Nebraska. Like that's really when my fandom took off as a young lad out here on the West Coast. And you would ask, what was the golden age, I believe was the phrasing, of college football? And so I don't know if this was my age, speaking for it, but I thought to that original BCS era, of you had basically, I want to say for almost a decade, if not longer, a different national champion every year. Tennessee, Florida State, Oklahoma, Miami, Ohio State, LSU, USC, Texas. Like, it rattled through so many different teams. And it leads me to a question that I was curious to ask you about where we're at right now. Do we have more parity than we've had in a long time in this sport, or is that a bit of fool's gold?
You do have it. Yes, you do have it. I think that there's a lot still moving right now. So the sport's not settled. So anyone who's trying to make these overarching, like, put it in stone kind of statements about where the sport is now, you don't know where it is. And where it is now may not be where it is in 2 years. So we're on very shaky ground right now, whereas the past is the past. It's settled, like you know what it was. And that's why, you know, a lot of what was parity back then was because the sport had not become so tilted towards one conference or one collection of teams like it ended up becoming, which kind of in many people's minds necessitated the NIL portal expanded playoff era. But that 98 through 2010 stretch, you could call that the BCS era. Technically, BCS went to 2013, but that era there, I did that on the show last night. Like, I just put that on Twitter, actually. It's like a 7-minute clip, but I think that the BCS era, to me, is the golden age of college football. And the thing about it is, I just realized I went 7 minutes on that. I never even talked about the postseason structure. It's all the other stuff in the BCS era. You had 11 champs in 13 years. You had – this is very important. People overlook this. It's the last era of college football that was pre-smartphone, which means the in-stadium environment was unobstructed from technology. And you had people just zoned in on the game. They weren't worried about recording on their phone or being on their phone. Now, I know that sounds like a 90-year-old dude's complaint, but if you've ever been in both kind of venues, it could be a concert, it could be a game. It is a different vibe when people's attention is unobstructed. We can't go back to that now. So that's just it. That's frozen in time. You had the Keith Jackson, Brent Musburger tail end of that era of those guys still calling games, which I think was the golden age of college football broadcasting. I also, if you think about recruiting and how different recruiting was as an industry, like as a form of entertainment, National Signing Day being the first Wednesday in February back then was when the internet sites kind of blew up. And I remember National Signing Day being my Christmas. And now, do you guys even know when National Signing Day is? Like, are you even paying attention to that? So there are so many aspects of the sport, not to mention bowl season was still completely pristine. And bowl season carried maximum importance. Like that Boise State-Oklahoma outcome in 2007, I think it was, that was not a title game. It's just a postseason game. The Jadeveon Clowney hit was a capital one bowl New Year's Day game. No one thought about opting out of the games because opting out wasn't a thing, because meaningless bowl games were not a thing. That wasn't a phrase that had been invented. So for a lot of reasons, I didn't even name all of them, that stretch of time was so uniquely wonderful in college football.
I want to ask you about the portal and things that you've noticed about the portal throughout the sport so far, but I want to ask you a quick bowl question because I largely agree. Now, you're going to disagree with my take here, and I totally get it. To our point a couple weeks ago, snorting the stuff. I have a lot of bowl games I just don't care about, and I find other things to watch. The couple that I do, one of them is the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Would you be upset with a playoff game being a Pop-Tarts Bowl?
No, I'm upset that it's not. I'm upset that it hasn't already happened.
Amen.
Normally I filibuster these questions, but that's it. It's one sentence. Okay. I'm upset it has not happened.
Thank you. The other one is the portal. A lot of teams are dependent on the portal to fill holes. The quarterback spot is a very important position for a lot of programs. Is there one that's jumping out to you the most of this team got this guy or this team, who the hell do they have?
Miami with Carson Beck is an obvious answer here. But it's fascinating because he comes down there and you're fresh off the Cam Ward experiment, which worked out offensively at least. And now you're going to get Carson Beck. You're going to pay him a ton of money. And this time last year, he was a Heisman favorite, and he was a favorite to go in the first round of the NFL draft. And now neither of those things is true, and he's got a brace on his arm, and he can't throw in spring. But, as a couple of Miami coaches I talked to pointed out, where else were we going to go? Well, we've got confidence in him. We think we can plug him in and we can go. But the market dictated that there wasn't a better option for Miami than Carson Beck. So that could either work out or crash and burn fantastically. And then the other one is Alabama, because I don't know what to expect from them. Ty Simpson was a former 5-star guy. He's been there for a few years. He's waited his turn, like really good program guy, gives them good looks in practice. There's no one there that would project him as a future first-round talent or anything like that. But they kind of think they can win with him. If you'll notice, they just had what Ohio State had happen. It was quiet, but Ohio State this time last year had a lot of guys forego the draft, and they spent a lot of NIL money on those guys to keep them there. And they reloaded, and now you see what Ohio State's doing. Bama just did that. Bama landed a couple of kids out of the portal, but they spent all their money convincing the guys that they like to stay and not transfer, not go to the NFL draft. And so Bama, if they get good quarterback play, they could be right back there next year.
Interesting. Great stuff. He's the commissioner of the sport. Go check his show out every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, 5 o'clock live our time on YouTube. Podcast wherever you find your podcast. Josh Pate's College Football Show. At Josh Pate. CFB on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Always enjoy the chat, my man. Enjoy the national championship. Hopefully we all end up being wrong and we get an all-time classic. And look forward to one more chat next week.
All right, guys, I appreciate it.
There you go. Josh Pate, good stuff from him on the world of college football.
Yeah, I didn't want to paint him in the Julie Bowen outfit of lingerie, carrying beer, making you happy. I almost went there. More like Chubbs, Peterson, the white suit playing. Hey, Dirt, it's okay.
It's going to be all right.
College is still here.
He's up there with Abraham Lincoln waving at me and the dead gator. Hey, Happy, how are you? Things are going wonderful.
Now we're just going to get Shooter McGavin.
Now we're just, we're gonna, with the KISS mask on.
Hey, look, there's more overarching questions I wanted to ask, but I'm going to wait for the playoff to be a finalized situation about next year. Is the playoff going to have what the NFL has? 6 new teams a year. What's the turnover rate going to be? How is this going to go? I think there's part of him that would admit that, this is an example of why expansion is good. You get Ohio State that gets a shot after not being perfect. I also think he'd just go what he said. Like, you think there's parity? Yeah. But what programs are they? They tend to be the same, like 7 to 8 programs. They all just have a shot now versus limiting it to 2 or 4.
Well, and I would say that was to the point of the golden era of college football that I tend to agree with him. And again, it's a little misleading because that was my childhood, and we all lean back on our childhood being the most fond memories, right, sometimes of our fandoms. Mm-hmm. I think what set that era apart, that beginning of the BCS era, for me, it wasn't that it was like, oh, my God, I can't believe Ohio State won a national championship. It was that for basically a decade, you had a different team win it every year. Like, think back to this. So the first year of the BCS, Tennessee won the first ever one. They're an SEC team. After that, it was Florida State from the ACC, Oklahoma from the Big 12, Miami from the Big East, Ohio State from the Big 10, LSU from the SEC, USC from the Pac-12, Texas from the Big 12, Florida from the SEC, right? And then the SEC started their run in like 06, 07, where they won every title for 12 straight years, it felt like. But there was that gap. It was like every team, every pocket of the country was represented, every conference. None of these teams were, oh my God, Boise State won a national title. They were all big household brands. But that's the level of parity that I would love to get back to in the sport of like, I know who the brands are going to be. I know who's going to compete year in and year out. That's likely how it's going to go. Just don't give me Alabama winning 7 out of 10 or Georgia winning 6 out of 9. Yeah. That's not what I want. No. Sprinkle them all in throughout, and then you're going to get – that to me is when you get to a healthy spot as a sport.
Miami in the Big East is hilarious to say out loud, how weird that sounds.
Yeah, go back and look at the teams I used to play in the Big East in the early 2000s.
Well, I would add to it like the golden age of football. I think the playoff's great, right? And despite what the results are and having blowout games and the bye teams, none of them won – I think the playoff is great. I would also kind of say, even pre-BCS, you make fun of the Husky title, right? The write-in champion. Not a great way to establish a national champion. But to his other point, man, did you really appreciate a 9-3 or 8-4 season and then care about a bowl game?
You absolutely did.
And now it's like, all right. And then you don't care about the bowl game, really.
I see highlights sometimes, like old Oregon highlights. I remember 1997, the Las Vegas Bowl, and Akili Smith torching Air Force, I think is who they played.
The Holiday Bowl with Oregon and Texas. Joey Harrington catching a pass. You're like, holy crap, this is fun.
This is cool. We're beating Texas, man. We're in the Holiday Bowl. Look at us. We're in San Diego right now.
Yes.
Daily Ticker, as always, brought to you by our good friends at Pelican Brewing, now offering their signature Pelican West Coast IPA on a shelf near you. Raise your glass, drink on. Pelican Brewing, born to the beach. We got a lot to get to in the final hour. I do want to ask a quarterback quarterback question in college football for next year. A little peekaboo to next season, if you will. I want to start, though, with some Northwest notes. One coach making a decision, one player departing a program, a coach departing a program. A couple of Northwest college football notes to start the final hour next on 1080 The Fan.
This thing. That's beautiful. Isn't that great?
An Odyssey Sports Station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, it was a career night for Blazer point guard Scoot Henderson. Had 17 of his 39 in the first quarter, made 8 out of 10 threes. Still not enough for the Blazers, who go down to the Nets, 132-114. Brooklyn ends a 5-game losing streak. And now Portland's got to worry about their rookie center, Donovan Clingan, who left late in the fourth quarter with a sprained right ankle. They'll check the severity today before they host the Clippers on Thursday night. Oregon State head football coach Trent Bray announcing Tuesday he will assume the defensive coordinator duties for the Beavers in 2025. This after the unexpected resignation of Keith Hayward over the weekend. Couple of NFL playoff injury updates. The Lions glad to see running back David Montgomery back at practice. He missed the last 3 games with a sprained MCL, expecting to play Saturday night against the Commanders. Rams head coach Sean McVay told the media he expects tight end Tyler Higbee to play Sunday against the Eagles. He left their wild card game in the second quarter with a chest contusion. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Well, I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
This is Dirt and Sprague.
Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brendan Sprague.
Fight's not with you, Holiday.
I beg to differ, sir. We started a game we never got to finish. Play for blood, remember?
Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
I was just fooling about.
I wasn't.
The Fan.
Hey, let's do this. Final hour. Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, live on YouTube, as we are every single day. Good morning, everybody. Hope your days are off to a great start.
I'm in sports hell.
How many sports fans are currently residing in I'm in sports hell? We know Blazer fan is.
Oh, what percentage of sports fans out there are currently in hell with their fandoms?
I think Duck fan was, and then like, hey, recruiting. Oh, we're back, baby.
And we're still in hell.
I don't think fans
There's
are.
a little bit. I'm still in hell.
I think Duck fans lie to themselves.
I mean, every fan base lies to themselves that everything's going to be fine and things are way better than they actually are.
I didn't say they didn't. I'm saying specifically the Duck fans, I think they lie to themselves because Dan Lanning tweets out a duck emoji.
Well, I mean, getting offensive linemen is great, but the pain of losing the Rose Bowl the way that they lost is going to take more than 2 weeks for me to wear off. That was 2 weeks ago today.
How many weeks into next season are they winning the championship for the fans?
4.
Oh, really?
You win at Penn State into the end of September, there's a natty.
Who's their first game against?
They play the FCS runner-up. Montana State's coming to town.
So when you guys housed the Bobcats the way we did at Providence Park 2 years ago, and Dante
they
Moore,
weren't easy. They weren't a juggernaut when you played them at Providence Park, okay? They were a middling program at the FCS level.
That's not true at all.
Nobody knew who Montana State was back then. Now they're going to title games.
When Dante Moore throws 4 touchdowns and doesn't play the second half, I think at that point they're winning the title.
It'll be game 5. Montana State, Oklahoma State, Northwestern, Oregon State is the start to their schedule, and then they go on the road to Penn State.
What's OK State doing?
I don't know. That's a really good question.
Keep running Gundy back.
We got a guy that we have contact with down there at OK State. They made him take a pay cut to stick around. He's excited about his trip out to Eugene.
It may feel disrespectful to say this aloud, but is there a real Gundy-Tomlin vibe of like both been there forever? Maybe this shouldn't keep happening?
Maybe a fresh start would be the thing to do here.
Tomlin probably more likely to succeed in the next place, whereas I could see Gundy never succeeding again.
I absolutely could too.
Who the hell knows at this point? I don't know what they got in the portal.
Well, let's talk about fans who maybe are no longer in sports hell. Your fan base seems to be pretty thrilled about the way things are going right now. You guys are all excited about the upcoming year. I think you're going to win 13 games next year. Yeah, go Beavers! And
we're going to win 13 games.
13. You're going to win 13 next year. Your defensive coordinator stepped away randomly. Keith Hayward did earlier in the week and was like, "Oh, okay." But I don't think that's when you lose a lot of sleep over. Whatever. Good coach, but your defense wasn't very good last season.
Yeah, I gave up 30 points a game and 300-plus yards.
All right.
So, yeah.
All right, we'll go find somebody else.
I think it was actually almost 400 total yards.
Yeah, not good. Not good, Bob. And everybody's been waiting all week. Well, who's he going to hire as his defensive coordinator? Who's Trent Bray going to go get to call the defense in his second year as head coach? And he said, you know what? I'm going to look in the mirror, and I'm going to name myself defensive coordinator. He's going,
You're going to do it.
He's going Jerry Jones of owners. He's saying, I'm the GM too, bitch. I'm going to call the defense. And this led to a lot of takes, either pro or negative, which I shouldn't be surprised. Everybody's got a take on everything. But what was the reaction to Trent Bray saying, I will be the defensive coordinator and the head coach?
I think anybody not related to the fandom should ask themselves, if you want a real opinion, what if I told you Oregon had Taj LaPoy leave and Lanning named himself?
I would be perfectly fine with that.
You have no problems with it?
Not at all.
So I've had back and forth thoughts on this. I hate to tell you this on the air. I don't know if I really reside in one take or the other. I saw a Beaver fan that told me this is such a dire straits, cheap move that a joke of a program would make, and then the very next tweet of fans saying, I love this, which kind of tells me everything I need to know about this. There isn't one concrete takeaway.
Is there a truth somewhere in the middle there where it likely resides?
I mean, look, it's January 15th. I got it fully transparent, did not read the Daschle story on this, so if there's an assistant here that was named, a special assistant to the coordinator, a Dwight Schrute, if you would.
No, the article.
Who's the Dwight Schrute of Oregon State's defense next year?
There's going to be
the special
one.
assistant to the defensive
No,
coordinator.
Bray said they were going to search for some sort of veteran analyst that maybe has been a head coach before and been on the defensive side.
So a Dwight Schrute.
They're going to go find a Dwight Schrute.
Okay, thank you. it's going to work itself out. He is going to be entirely committed if this stays the way it is with some new special analyst assistant guy. He's going to be the guy who coordinates the defense. I don't think he's going to take on fully in all practices, just be talking to the defense. So is this the perfect scenario? No. Does this mean they can't be good defensively and be better offensively? Also, no. I get both sides of the argument. This doesn't happen very often.
No.
Now, you said something during one of the breaks of what's the difference between him doing this and fill-in-the-blank coach who's calling plays, and my only rebuttal was technically they have a guy named offensive coordinator. Some guys give up play calling. Dillingham talked about this. He basically said it was really hard. I didn't want to give up play calling, but according to him, Arroyo called the plays.
Arroyo calls their plays, yeah.
Now, this is a little Andy Reid-esque. Dillingham's not having say in key moments.
Of course he is, yeah. Like, let's do this here. What about this? I like this look. Why don't we try this?
Right.
This looks open.
But,
yeah.
Kelly did this. He was calling plays. They just technically had Mark Helfrich as the OC.
And Scott Frost as well.
So I don't think this has to be a detriment to their season, their results. The defense statistically stands that it should get better. He was a good coordinator before he became the head coach. And we'll react to this, I think, more as the season goes on. It doesn't happen often, but it also doesn't mean that they can't have more success defensively while hoping the new offensive ads for Gundy don't make the offense better.
It's really funny the way that we look at some of this stuff, because when an offensive coordinator gets hired and that guy has not called plays, we almost act like, what have you even done? Like, to the point of this was what the reaction was when Lanning originally hired Kenny Dillingham. There was a lot of pushback of this guy was with Mike Norvell. He never even called the plays. Mike Norvell, he calls his own plays. So Dillingham's just there. He's up in the booth. He's giving you eyes. Hey, this is what they're doing with their safeties. Let's try this. He's got input on the offense, but we almost downgrade that person. And then when a head coach does it the opposite way, we want to look at it as some want to look at it as a negative. I don't understand any of the negative feedback here. I don't.
It looks cheap. I mean, let me just get out in front of it.
Your program is cheap.
Okay.
That's the situation they're in.
I'm telling you what the negative feedback is, whether it's true or not. It looks cheap. But it doesn't. It makes you kind of wonder, does he not have anybody online too? And maybe that's where the analyst part will come in here, and you'll kind of have a pseudo co-defensive coordinator that's going to help him during practices so he can examine the entire situation.
Yes.
But if they play poorly and they lose, this is going to be looked back on and said, well, yeah, the guy's only focusing on one side. Special teams isn't great, or offense is struggling.
Right.
That's going to be on him. He's the head coach.
Yeah, look, the buck stops at his desk. There's no doubt about that. I would argue the main area that they needed to show this offseason that they were not being cheap in is talent acquisition, and they have done that. They have added multiple guys from the portal. They're paying $1 million+ for a starting quarterback to come from the ACC.
$1.5 million.
They're spending a lot of money on the roster. They're getting former blue chip recruits who are looking for new homes. Those guys don't come play at Corvallis pro bono. They're not just looking for a life raft. They're getting offers and they're getting paid. Your program is paying players to come, and that's great. That's a sign of the times.
I thought DJ was there for free.
He was there for free. He never earned $1 when he was a quarterback at Oregon State. He just left Clemson and came to Oregon State to play for free for a year. That's exactly how it works with your program, but everybody else is paying people.
Malik Murphy came for 1.5.
He came for free. Yeah.
DJ Uiagalelei came for nothing.
I remember when I sourced that, how much they were paying him, and Beaver reporters well, actually, no, you're paying him. It's okay. This is what everybody does. So I think the most important thing you needed to show in the offseason was that you weren't cheap in terms of player acquisition, because that's the name of the game. Jimmys and Joes win far more than X's and O's.
Yes.
And so you got to go you've solved a little bit of that problem in the offseason. If you want to tell me your university says, hey, Trent, you were already basically calling the defense to begin with. We would rather hire an analyst at – how much does a college football analyst make? What do we think the salary is on that?
Who is it?
I don't know, but it's not a.
Is it
$700,000? It's not $500,000.
Let me look it up.
If you're going to go hire a defensive coordinator, how much money do we think that person is going to command?
Oh, I mean, you can get one for $400 at Oregon State.
Okay, an analyst is not going to make $400,000, right?
But...
So my thought initially was just simply that this was the guy he's a defensive head coach. If Dan Lanning did this, I would have no issue with it whatsoever, and I genuinely don't see the difference between an offensive-minded head coach, which exists all over college football, running their offense and calling their plays on that side of the ball, and a defensive coach doing it for their side of the ball. I don't understand what the difference is.
So, this has got to be different now. I'm struggling to find a salary. They can range anywhere from 45 to 100 plus thousand.
Yeah.
Depending on who. Like Butch Jones years ago was an analyst at LSU. He made $35K.
And some of the guys aren't making a lot of money because they're just getting paid because they were fired head coaches and they're still getting paid big money, and so they just want to go help out and stay in football.
I know he's not the coordinator, obviously, but I've always kind of viewed the Oregon thing, and I gave Taj LaPoy some flowers throughout the season of like, let's give the guy a little credit, right? But I also, when I watch Oregon's defense not play well, I kind of have a natural like, is Dan Lanning...
That falls back on Lanning instead of the DC.
Well, not on Lanning. It is on LaPoy, and LaPoy is getting the blame. But I'm also wondering how much of the game plan when they lose and don't perform was Lanning a part of. But it's hard to be a part of that as the head coach.
You got a lot of responsibilities.
So, and just like offensively at USC, if USC's offense sucks, who are we blaming?
Lincoln Riley calls the plays.
I don't even know who the offensive coordinator technically is.
I have no clue. Couldn't tell you.
Right, but it's the guy who calls the plays or who's the reputation. What's the side of the ball the reputation is on?
Yeah, I chuckled at the backlash a little bit. I get that it looks cheap, and I understand that. Would it help if they hired an analyst and just gave him the label of defensive coordinator? Would that make people feel better? Like, there are so many coaches around the country, and I don't know how many there are examples of this side where it's a defensive head coach calling their own plays. I genuinely don't know the answer to that.
Right.
But there are thousands of coaches you could look at. I mean, exaggerating, but there's a lot of coaches who are offensive-minded guys. Lincoln Riley, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin. The list goes on and on and on and on of guys who are offensive-minded head coaches who call their own plays, who run their own offense, yes, with an input from an offensive staff, but they do it on that side of the ball, and I don't understand why it's a negative for defense. But if you hire an offensive coach, which so many fan bases want, by the way, to go hire an offensive-minded head coach, we're perfectly fine with them calling one side of the ball.
Well, think about Kansas City. I mean, that's the premier example here, so it doesn't always ring true for everybody. But, like, is Andy Reid dabbling much in the what Steve Spagnuolo's doing defensively?
Yeah, I think he's got his own keys over on that side of the ball. Like, you do your thing, buddy.
Spags is basically Venables. He's the co-head coach. He just coaches one side of the
I'm just handling this side, and you handle that side, and we'll operate well. So that came out yesterday. Trent Bray has named himself defensive coordinator, and then he's going to go find a Dwight Schrute for his staff to be the assistant to the defensive coordinator.
I think the couple questions that we may never get answers to is, what was the staff pool financially for them? Were those resources, was it good? And, did he just look at the landscape and not have anybody he knew or trusted enough?
Said, I think I have more faith in myself than anybody else.
Yeah, let me put this in my own hands. I was wondering during last year at the end, like, how much are you helping defensively? Because this is bad, man.
Yeah, you won 10 games a couple years ago, predominantly because of your dominant defense, and he was the guy behind that. So if I'm picking somebody to run it, I can't pick anybody better than the guy who was already there. A couple other odds and ends in the college football world. We'll get to those, including a quarterback question for next year that I was pondering. We're back after this on The Fan.
Your leg bone connected to your knee bone. It's time for a sports injury report. The injuries and rehab that impact the success of sports teams. Why? Brought to you by Rock Orthopedic.
He's doing better. Don't have any more information, but he came back with us. He has full expectation that he'll be ready to go. Just a chest injury. Yeah, he was spitting up a little bit of blood.
Sean McVay, head coach of the Rams. Higbee, their tight end, spitting up a little bit of blood, but he said, don't worry about it, but he'll be fine.
Yeah, no big deal. Guy going to the hospital, spitting up blood. Sounds like if you got a phone call of anybody in your family doing that, you'd freak out, go to the hospital, but no big deal. He'll play this weekend potentially. Also, every time I hear him talk, I picture John Gruden.
Yeah.
He's got the Gruden cadence.
Almost identical. Sports Injury Report presented by Rock Orthopedic, board-certified specialists who diagnose and treat the widest range of orthopedic cases with care and expertise. Schedule an appointment with Dr. Christopher Nansen. Visit rocpdx.com.
Sent you.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Still got a lot to get to. Happy Wednesday, everybody.
It's a hump day.
We're humping away over here. That's what we do.
Hooray!
Washington had a nice little run in the transfer portal in the offseason. One of them being a 5-star wide receiver, Jonte Cook, who was a kid at Texas, one of the most coveted high school recruits, a little over a year ago coming out, went to Texas for a year, left the program halfway through the year, entered the transfer portal, and he decided to go to Washington earlier this offseason.
That's a good get.
That was a really nice get. And then yesterday he left the program. So it sounds like there's this guy was not a good character guy at Texas. That was part of the reason he left, it sounds like.
Yeah,
whatever. One of those. And I love the Husky fan doing the same thing that every fan base does. That's right. We didn't want him anyways. Every fan base does it, but we all make fun of other fan bases when the other fan bases do it. That's all right.
Why do we got to say that?
Anyway.
Why do we got to say that? You could say, hey, maybe this ends up being better off given something happened, but
3 weeks ago, this guy's a blue chipper who's going to be your number 2 wide receiver and lead a lethal passing attack. Now it's good that he's out of the program. Now we didn't want him anymore.
That's unfortunate. He's a 4-5-star kid.
He's a big-time kid,
going to
man.
have a lot of expectation, I think, as a young player to maybe take a big step to lead them back to contention, I think, within the conference.
It doesn't sound like he got in. There was all sorts of rumors yesterday floating around on Twitter. It doesn't sound like there's any sort of legal trouble here, although that was the rumor initially. I don't believe that's the case at all. He was on, they reportedly, this is what Softy said, they kicked him off that time for insubordination and not following team rules.
Yes.
And a very proper follow-up to that would be, well, Dirt, how long was he a part of the team? The answer to that question is 48 hours.
The quickest you've ever gotten in trouble.
He was on the team for 40. How do you break enough rules in 48 hours to get kicked off of a team? How is that possible? He's there for 2 days. How many meetings do they have right now? 2 days. Are they even doing anything? They're not practicing. Their season's over.
That's the Homer Simpson dad gif. He just walks in with his hat, turns right back around, grabs the hat, walks out.
See you later. That was a fun ride.
48 hours to violate team rules? How do you even get your dresser put together and your bed ready?
He didn't even unpack the boxes. He already broke too many team rules.
You ever just want I don't know if this is true, so text police correct it. I saw a thing early this morning getting ready for the show on social media, which is why I say I don't know if it's true, that said the first webcam created was guys at an office that put it in front of their coffee pot to know if it was full or not so they could go get a cup. And I don't know if that is the true,
That's a wild reason to have a webcam.
Brilliant reason, too, if you think about it.
Is it ready to go? Is it
if
not
it's
ready yet?
Down a little bit, you're like, what a waste of my time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true, but if it is, that's hilarious. I would love a webcam of guys like this. I want to see him land at SeaTac, get the escort to Montlake, and then I want to see exactly when the violation of team rules happened. Was it within 24 hours, 10 hours, 6 hours, 32 hours? I want to see it. I want that to be a reality television thing that I can watch on a web series.
If this guy had a 48-hour vlog, I'd probably watch all 48 hours. I want to know exactly what went down here. How does that transpire so quickly? And it just, I don't know, it feels like there's got to be a little bit more, and eventually maybe we'll get more of the backstory. That's just very weird. This kid had a bit of character concerns coming in. A lot of guys going into the portal do. And so the thought is, hey, we can take a flyer on him. Maybe it's a better fit culturally, and we'll, second chance, right? Maybe he's going to be a little more hungry and all that kind of stuff. It's just wild that it transpired literally just on campus for 2 days. And okay, see you later. We're parting ways. Kicked him off the team. Whatever phrasing you want to use. Jonte Cook is no longer a member of Washington. That have one other bit of tough news for the Huskies, because a year ago they were the NFL development team. Jed Fish is going to run it like an NFL model. We got Pete Carroll's kid. We got Bill Belichick's kid. We're the NFL organization.
I don't like what's happening on this show.
You don't like this at all? I'm loving every second of this. And then Steve Belichick, who was their NFL mind defensively, well, he left. He's going back to work with Daddy over at North Carolina.
Hopefully be the coach in waiting.
He is going to be the coach in waiting.
Fingers are crossed.
In the Tar Heel baby blue.
Is it Steve Belichick?
Steve Belichick. He licks his lips all weird.
Whole question.
Nepotism.
Is Steve Belichick's toes currently crossed, hoping to be named the coach in waiting?
100% crossed. He has permanently crossed toes, waiting for Daddy to give him another opportunity. And So there, you kind of lose that label a little bit. Well, he was also actively recruiting guys off of their team. One of their stud young linebackers went into the portal and followed him to North Carolina.
I saw that.
So a lot of Washington fans were getting pissed of like, hey, wait a minute. You're like, what? You're here for a year, now you're recruiting our roster away. Well, yesterday they hired one of Washington's best recruiters in Armand Hawkins, who was a defensive backs coach for them. And he was their number one recruiter, according to a couple of different websites. So he's now following Steve Belichick. And that has led to Washington hiring Taylor Mays today.
How about that?
Do we remember Taylor Mays at USC?
Was a Seattle kid, first of all.
He is a Seattle kid.
He left his alma mater, USC, to go be at Washington. So he's going back home.
And his dad played at Washington.
I cannot begin to act like I know Taylor Mays, good coach, not good coach, recruiter, not good recruiter. What I would say, Taylor Mays is one of my all-time whiffs. I thought that dude was going to be Ed Reed.
He was so intimidating.
And that just did not pan out for him in the NFL.
He had large shoulder pads,
large
big dude,
shoulder pads,
like just scared the hell out of him.
Back when players didn't care about the speed or the physics of it, he just was like, give me the XLs.
Yep. Give me a neck roll.
I'm going to light your ass up. Back when all hits were legal, too, and you could just blow people up going over the middle of the field.
Taylor Mays, man, an all-time USC name that I'll never forget.
So they've landed him. And a bit of news just coming out of the college football.
Do you just permanently swim in as much negative Husky news as you can?
Yeah, basically, pretty much. Yeah, that's what I do when I go home.
Is the water green in that scenario or purple? And you're wearing green shorts?
Probably green.
Green pool?
Green pool, I would think.
Okay.
I would think green pool.
All right.
I vote green pool.
Because you swim in it. I mean, it's like there's never anything positive. It's like, Gio and I went at Washington. Gio and I with the Huskies.
You see they scored 13 points in a basketball game in the first half last week? People don't forget.
Sprinkle's first year.
Dan Holtman won the CBI in his first year, bitch.
So did Craig Robinson.
Remember when Oregon was going to pay $5 million for Quinn Ewers to be their quarterback next year, and that was a rumor online?
Do you think that's done? Do you think he is going to go to the NFL? I still think he might get talked into staying in college, going somewhere. Bad take.
Now, this doesn't hold much weight because Carson Beck literally just did this and then decided to enter the transfer portal after declaring.
A Cavender twin talked him into a better life.
He had a Cavender twin in Miami, and he followed suit. Quinn Ewers just declared for the NFL draft.
I mean, he kind of did to Pete Thamel before the playoff game.
Yes.
But, if the report is true.
That's bold. He's turning down $5 million to be Oregon's starting quarterback next year to go to the NFL. Wow.
Well, what if Alabama comes in with a $5.5 million check?
Well, they got up at $5.5 million now for Quinn Ewers.
So we don't have enough time. We're already against it. But I would ask you, I've been thinking about this with portal stuff that is nearly impossible to follow what every team is doing at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Do Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels maybe kind of reconsider for the NFL how they view this? Because these guys can make more returning to the sport and then go to the NFL later than they can year one in the NFL, where they may fail with the immaturity or not being ready. I wonder how this is going to impact talent development.
But if you're a first-round draft pick, your deal's, guaranteed for 4 years?
It is. Is Quinn Ewers a first-round draft pick?
That's the question. It depends on what information
he thinks
getting.
he is.
Because I don't think Carson Beck would have been, but maybe he would have. NFL teams are stupid. They make Johnny Manziel was a first-round pick. I know he was great in college.
If you're getting believable, reliable
would Bryce Young have been better off waiting a year in the NIL portal?
No, not with number one overall. No, I don't think so. I think the debate
it's not about money. This is not about money, I think, either. I think this is about fit. Teams may not pull an Arch Man or Eli Manning.
Oh, wait and see who has the number one pick next year.
I mean,
the hard part of that is that it's not a guarantee in terms of what if it's an even worse organization that has it the next year. Right, like eventually you're going to run out of options. I see the theory there.
Titans or Bama? Where would you rather play next year?
Well, people pointed to when Beck made his decision to go to Miami, people pointed to Will Levis, who was, a third-round pick, somewhere in that range. And his guaranteed base salary next year is like $1 million. Like, the guy's making nothing. And Carson Beck, who probably would have been drafted in that range, I would imagine, unless the team's really stupid, he's going to make $4 million next year to be the quarterback of Miami.
Right, and Will Levis may never have proven to be one, but he's never going to be a starting quarterback in the league again unless an injury happens.
Exactly. So he could have stuck around and got a couple $1 million. See, that's where I think for these kind of guys, I don't see Quinn Ewers being a first-round pick. I don't know why anybody would take him in the first round, but this quarterback class is also not very good. And you've got a lot of guys who could have been higher picks. Drew Aller probably would have been. NFL scouts like him. Nussmeier at LSU.
I think Nussmeier would have snuck up near the top.
Could have been top 15 picks.
He has the look of a pro prospect just because he didn't succeed maybe with the wins, losses, the way some would think doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it's interesting. He's probably gone. He's made that abundantly clear. Alabama line, too. $6.2 million, Quinn.
Yeah, we'll see if they come in. It sounds like when Beck decided to enter the portal and not go to the NFL draft, first Georgia called him. That was a report that came out today. Georgia called him and wanted him back, and he said no. And then the second team that called him was Alabama. Alabama called him and offered him a bag of money, and he said no. And he took Miami's bag because, to your point, there's a gal down there that he seems to be
it's also Miami.
Infatuated by. So there you go, a little college football news and notes for you. A listener suggestion for Sprague. We'll get to that coming up next. And a couple of poll questions we got to answer back after this. First, here's Swag with SportsCenter.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on The Fan, despite a career-high 39 points from Scoot Henderson that saw him shoot 8 for 10 from three-point range, Blazers couldn't contain the Brooklyn Nets, who ended a 5-game losing streak with a 132-114 win here in Portland. Bigger concern now for Portland is their rookie center Donovan Clingan after he left the floor late in the fourth quarter with a right ankle sprain, assessing the severity of it today. And the Blazers will host the Clippers Thursday night. With the unexpected resignation of defensive coordinator Keith Hayward over the weekend, Oregon State head football coach Trent Bray announcing Tuesday he will assume the DC duties for the Beavers in 2025. Injury updates for teams still in the NFL playoffs. Lions excited to see running back David Montgomery back at practice on Tuesday. Expectations are he'll give it a go Saturday night against the Commanders. Rams head coach Sean McVay told the LA media he expects tight end Tyler Higbee to play Sunday against the Eagles, even though he left their wildcard game in the second quarter with a chest contusion. College hoops tonight on 910 ESPN. Portland, number 9 Kansas visits number 2 Iowa State. Tip at 4 o'clock. Pregame coverage at 3:45. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Hot Corner, now in its new time. Tuesdays at 7 after Isaac and Sue on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Hey, Dirt and Sprague here, sticking around for our good friends at Trajan.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Seahawk fans now commiserating. Are we going to take Quinn Ewers at 18th overall?
Oh, man. No, you got Sam Howell.
That's right, Sam Howell.
I was told by John Schneider that Sam Howell could still be a franchise quarterback in this league, but now they're like, we think we want Geno back.
Yeah, Geno, Sam Howell. I think you're good. You don't need to take a quarterback.
You're kind of proving to be right here.
What am I right on? Where Dirt was right?
I don't know if eventually we get Furness on and you just gloat, because you're not really like that with Furness. He's different for you.
No, Ian's a good dude. I don't gloat at him.
Yeah, but he's very opinionated.
He is.
He'll tell you that you're wrong or that he has a good take. You kind of have it here with Geno. He thinks Geno's the bee's knees.
He is a big bee's knees Geno guy.
But I don't know if they don't win next year, how much longer that's going to last for old Geno in Seattle.
Another random trade note thrown out in the NFL today. DK Metcalf to the Chargers for a couple of draft picks. Who's saying no to that one?
Would you say yes to giving up a 4th and a 5th for DK, Swag, at the Chargers?
What's his when is he going to need a new deal?
That's the question.
I don't remember what his contract situation is.
Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. See what in more years. 3 years, $72 million deal is what he signed, but when the hell did he sign it? He has 1 more year left on the deal. You can get out of it. You can void the contract after next year. So he's going to opt out, and he's going to get a new deal at the age of 29. So going into a contract year, that's probably the reason for Seattle of looking at their salary landscape of how much do we want to pay this guy.
I feel like he had a good year.
No, and Jigba came on really strong late at the end of the year.
About all the nagging injuries that kept him in and out of the lineup.
Well, he's got a little A.J. Brown in him.
There's definitely some diva there.
Sometimes goes through these lulls where it's like, I'm not getting the ball.
Much rather see them
sign T. Higgins.
Yes,
he had 66 catches, but he had almost 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
5 tuds.
5 tuds. Yeah,
that's
not terrible.
I think you're expecting a little more, but given how he emerged,
he would immediately become the number 1 weapon in the Chargers offense, or at least the number 1 downfield threat in the Chargers offense.
I would prefer to see them try to sign a big free agent like T. Higgins or somebody, and then
is he going to get tagged though? I think the Bengals can tag him again.
Are they going to double tag? There's no way.
I don't know. Dude, who knows what the Bengals are going to do?
No way.
Burrow's like, you cannot let talent.
If you're gonna load up like draft picks and other stuff to make a trade up and go get Warren in the draft, for crying out loud.
Well, what's funny is it kind of worked for them for the year, their alt pick, and then they looked like that in the playoffs. And I was texting my brother, and I'm like, they could have used Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
Brock Bowers would have been mighty
and
tasty.
Their offensive line didn't hold up very well, and that's what they addressed in the top 10, which long-term still an always smart strategy.
Well, I don't know what Alt's grade out of that playoff game was. It all is such a blur that I don't remember what sides the Texans' pass rush came from. But, I mean, it's always easy when you lose a playoff game to have that hindsight. That largely paid off for them. Their run game, their offensive line was much improved this year.
Yeah.
And now you see weapons-wise. I kind of feel like DK would grab his powers back by playing shirtless.
Just let him play shirtless?
Put a helmet on, play shirtless.
Shoulder pads with no jersey, maybe?
Just be like an untouchable, Greek god of just like, I'm chiseled.
I tend to agree with you there. By the way, I looked it up on what it would cost to tag a guy 2 years in a row.
Oh, it would be massive.
So it's 120% of what the first tag costs.
What was his tag this year?
His tag this year, according to Spot Track, T. Higgins made $21.8 million.
Yeah, so what's
120% of $21 million?
Hold on, before he tells us, because he's smarter than us.
I think he was paying attention.
He definitely wasn't. What is your guess of what 120% of 21 is?
Does he carry the 4? Subtract the 3.
Is that 43?
I'm going to add the 0.
No, 120%. So take 20% and add.
Splice it, square root it.
What was this? So 21 million?
We're Portland educated, too.
21.8 million.
21.8. So it'd be somewhere around 26 million.
Oh, that's not bad.
Oh, that's not bad
way
at all.
Better. Dirt was close.
I'm glad I didn't guess. I was going to guess a way higher number than that.
And to Josh Pate's point, don't give a number.
Way higher
you reveal
number.
yourself.
Don't do it, man.
Sprague, not good at math, like whatsoever.
Don't do it. Now that we're in year 2, a lingering thought. We can get to this a little bit more tomorrow because we're kind of already against it. But I did want to bring it up. Are we thumbsing up or thumbsing down the new NFL playoff format in year 2? Is this year 2 of the new format?
No, it's been since 2020.
Has it really? It's been that long?
I looked up an article on this. We could talk about it tomorrow. The 1 seed, and if this is paying off early so far, we have the numbers. Fowler wrote a piece on this, and I kind of was holding it for tomorrow. But are we digging like having the 7 seed?
Yeah, I mean, the difference is you had one more playoff game and the 2 seed doesn't get a bye. The 2 seed has to play a 7 seed. And to my knowledge, you maybe know more than I do on this because I thought it started last year. I believe the 7 seed has only beat the 2 seed once. And it was last year. It was Green Bay blowing out the Cowboys in Dallas.
Yes.
So that's the only time we've seen him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I largely lean early. I mean, I actually wasn't a big fan of it when it started.
No.
I get why you do it.
But it was never done to make...
It's not about fan interest.
I don't think it was done to make
money. I mean,
the playoffs more intriguing. I think it was done to make the end of the regular season more intriguing and to get a cash grab with an extra playoff game.
Regular season.
Regular season.
That was very interesting how you said that.
Oregon State.
I mean, I think you're right, but then they added Week 18.
They did.
They kind of like got rid of the purpose.
So then the last week of the regular season seems so meaningless.
There's
when
not
you get
really
to
a lot
it.
of games that
It's like
have
4 games of seeding on the line.
The Packers needed to win, right? The Commies ended up winning. The Packers also needed to win, and they midway through that game said, "Don't care." Commanders needed to win midway through their game. Don't care.
Yeah.
So like you can say, Sprague, actually, these two teams, they didn't seem to care. They both kind of punted on the game. So, the 7 seed is good for Bronco fans, like teams that emerge with young players.
You go to the playoffs
and take a step. That's what it benefits. Those fans are happy. When you're a Packers, not last year, Packers are the youngest team in the league. When you're a team with expectation and you end up as a 7 seed, it kind of just is, you're dragging the team to the playoffs. I don't know. I didn't think they needed it, but I know why they did it. And so far, I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because people tend to think, well, it'll cut. It's adding to more blowouts. But the funny response to that is, well, all the other games would be the same. You just wouldn't get the 2 versus 7 game.
Right.
I mean, largely wild card weekends.
So 2 versus 7, if you want to say that's an added blowout that you're having. But all the other blowout games that we saw, Minnesota losing to the Rams getting killed.
Yeah.
Houston blowing out the Chargers, the Ravens, and the Steelers game being boring. Like all those matchups would have been the same.
You had
matchups.
one great game.
Yeah,
gave the NFL more real estate, but is it?
It's not about fan interest. Baseball expanding is about getting more fans interested because it's regional. That sport's got such a grasp on us as sports fans that it wasn't about
probably
that.
When they redid the last TV deals and forced all their network partners to kick in more money. We got to give you some more. Yeah. They need something.
Peacock got a game last year. Like you can't. Netflix is probably going to find their way into getting one.
They without a doubt will. That's what it's going to be all about, man. You got to make more money.
Cancel Netflix.
No, you got to hold on to it. You're probably going to get some NBA package at some point, too. It's the world we live in, man. Let's wrap it up. We got some poll questions and listener advice for Sprague. We'll close it up there next on The Fam.
It's time for To the House, the scoring plays that make football special. Brought to you by Smartline Home Design. Online at smartlinehomedesign.com.
At the 1, 3rd and goal, Goff under center, tied into motion, snap, spin, handoff, Montgomery, digs, turns, lunges in over the left guard. Touchdown, Detroit! A 93-yard drive.
That is Kevin Harlan, who we just should have in this call every time because he calls great to the house calls on a David Montgomery touchdown earlier this year on Westwood One that he's going to be back this weekend, it sounds like, for the divisional round of the playoffs.
Great news for Detroit. They got their rest. We'll see how it pays off for them. Very quickly, maybe a topic for tomorrow. He signed as the number 2 to Amazon's basketball coverage.
Who's their number 1?
Ian Eagle. Who's more
Kevin
the number
Harlan's
1?
better.
Harlan or
Kevin
Eagle?
Harlan. Kevin Harlan, all 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. To the House, brought to you by Smartline Home Design, a trusted local architectural design studio ready to bring your dream home to life. Visit smartlinehomedesign.com.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Well, Dwayne's not happy with you, Sprague.
Oh, what fan base is Dwayne a part of?
Well, he's a fan of the Hair Club, is who he's a fan of.
The Hair Club?
The Hair Club. He's a big hair guy.
Did I rant about the Hair Club today?
He did, yeah, he did. He says, Dwayne chimed into the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326.
So are you reading this in an angry tone? Text is sometimes awful and problematic because we read it in a way.
I don't know if it's angry. I'm maybe disappointed is more of a better tone to read this in.
I read swag in a very annoyed tone.
Yeah, I do too.
And I read you in a very like, hey, didn't really care that you guys were texting me for 3 hours tone.
Dear Brandon.
Oh, we got a Dear Brandon.
This is what Dwayne says. Okay. Dear Brandon. Okay. Your hair and hairline are too good for a 30-year-old man. To shave their head with zero style. In your teens and early 20s, it's okay. Sure. Yeah. Not good, but okay.
Okay.
As an adult in entertainment.
Yes.
Welcome to the entertainment industry.
Well, there's some movies that you find online. Make sure you click the privacy tab.
You need to care at least a tad bit. I can start giving you a fade for free once a month or something. I volunteer this. Free awesome haircut and style as a thank you for the free entertainment.
Oh.
And also, so I don't have to look at your terrible look. Worst case for you, you shave it again, but I'm 99% sure that your wife and kids will thank me. Heck, you might even get lucky.
I'm reading that in a very loving, funny tone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dwayne. I appreciate that.
Dwayne's worried about you, buddy. He's worried about you and your haircut over there.
I appreciate that. Look, love to get laid. I mean, who doesn't? Right?
Come on. Who doesn't?
Very interesting. Never had that text before.
Doesn't like that, huh? Give me a little bit of that.
Now, the movie I made would have already ended by now. So this went a little long.
Yeah, you in the entertainment industry. It was you're a Vine entertainment industry guy.
There's a part 2, and both are only 5 minutes combined. So,
short films.
We call them shorts. That's all we call them. Shorts. Sums up the whole situation.
The honeymoon's over.
Yeah, very quickly. What do you do when you go to a beach? Anyways, so I appreciate the sentiment. Much agree, I guess, with some of what you're saying. Here's the thing, Dwayne.
That's one of my favorite texts that we've ever got.
It's a great text. I'm actually getting a haircut today. I have somebody that's going to fade me up tonight. I appreciate the offer. Second, I've always had a shaved head. you've seen me more with hair, but in my life, I largely always had a shaved head because I don't care about hair.
I know, I don't either.
I just never have. Even when I had it, I don't do the waxy stuff. I don't do gel
products.
And then I don't do it. The wind's blowing it 8 different ways. This is the most comfortable for me. I'm already ugly anyway. I'm well aware of this. Hair or shaved head is not going to change things a whole lot. And the beauty of this industry is we're done. The people have spoken. I can be Ariel Helwani, have hair but not want it. I can wear a T-shirt on the show. Thank you, Josh Pate.
Nick Wright's one of the ugliest humans alive, if we're being honest, and that guy's making a lot of money.
I'm not wearing a suit. I'm not wearing a tie. Yeah. That's not what this landscape is anymore, thank God.
This is how we roll.
I'm in sports.
I had Eric Samano one time tell me, you need to dress like you're making a car sale.
Nah, I'm good.
I'm still in radio. He's not.
Jim, our favorite P2, says, I'll shave my back hair and put it on my head. Your hair's fine. That'll do it for us. Josh Pate was great. Go check the podcast, 1080thefan.com, at Dirt and Sprague and at 1080thefan. Thanks, everybody, for watching on YouTube. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Calling us next. Listening to 1080 The Fan.
Hola, amigos. Brad Evans here to help you.